Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream for December 16th, 2021. We're closing out the year with a bang with one of our top performing stocks of the last 12 months, VSBLTY Groupe, VSBGF over the counter, VSB for all the Canadians, and of course, Jay Hutton, the CEO. Jay, welcome back.
Thank you, Jack. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Absolutely. Now, Jay, VSB has been really, again, one of our top performing stocks in the last 12 months. I think last year, this time you were about 45 cents. Recently went to $2. Of course, it started off at 17 cents. So it's already been a 10x from the beginning, over 5x in 2021. But of course, what people want to know is what's the path ahead for the next 12 months? Right. Is this going to be our first 100 bagger? Jay, again, we've had 10 baggers, 20 baggers. We need that 100 bagger. And with everything that you have, really VSB has all the key ingredients to be that stock which has that 100x upside. The markets you're addressing, the multiple catalysts, so many incredible things that I want to kind of dive into today. And of course, the main thing is we want to open up for audience questions. That's the big idea. So again, Jay, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then everybody watching, please submit your questions through the live chat, and then decide for yourself if VSB is going to be our next or our first 100 bagger stock. So Jay, I think we should do maybe like a quick recap. What you've accomplished in the last 12 months, which has been a lot. From where the company was last December, where you are now, and then where you're going. So, should we maybe start off with you have the three different aspects, right? Should we start off with the store as medium business, the Modelo Ramos?
Well, we talked a little bit about this before airtime, Jack, and so I kind of wrote some crib notes about how I would respond to that question, and allow me just a couple minutes here just to review the year. The year started with, the most significant component of the years was the announcement of the letter of intent with AB InBev, which 60 days later, maybe 45 days later, became a joint venture. Now I keep referencing back to that whenever I have an opportunity to speak to shareholders, either privately or on a public environment like this. And I do believe, and others do believe as well, that so little about that deal has been disclosed, and so little about that deal has been fully appreciated. There's two components of value to that deal. I'm sorry, I'm going to make my review slightly longer than, but I'll be as quick as I can. Certainly there's license revenue that comes out of that deal. By the end of year 4, that's in the neighborhood of $10 to $15 million a year in license revenue, which goes directly to VSBLTY and doesn't get diluted by participation in the JV. But of greater interest, well, not greater interest, but certainly greater impact in that deal is the media revenue. What we're building here is a 50,000 store minimum, right? Could go bigger than that. Network that connects small mom and pop 12 to 15 square meter retail locations initially in Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. That's underway. It's in a few thousand stores at the moment, and we're although I'm not because it's so competitive in this marketplace, and I could name 3 or 4 competitors that have similar aspirations. AB InBev, our enormous partner, is asking us to keep the lid on some of the cadence details. And even though I reject that as a public company CEO in lots of ways, I kind of have to respect that idea and balance the benefit of talking about it in detail versus blowing up a relationship. Go ahead.
But also, it presents a good opportunity for an upside surprise a little bit down the road, because when you come out
and this is precisely the point I was about to make. The upside, listen, I'm excited about the license revenue. It's what fuels our fire. It gets our juices flowing. But the greater win in the ABI deal, which I believe is not fully appreciated, is the media value. That media value, by the time we get to year 4, 45,000 roughly stores, It's a $260 million media value, which 7 months ago was prospective, was guesswork. But now that we're in and selling and having brands buy media, we now know that our prognostications in terms of the value of those impressions delivered is right. And the best part about that is we now have behind us validation of the media spend. We have validation of the core business model. At the end of the day, the license revenue is wonderful and fantastic, but doesn't do anything to support the hypothesis of the business model. The only way that that business model is supported and validated is that the brands, PepsiCo, Bimbo, etc., buy the space. The brands are buying the space. That's the bottom line. The brands are now buying the space, which de-risks the thing as we go forward. I mean, from my point of view, especially in the third and fourth quarter, when this began to happen in a way that is material and repeatable, we've not only had brands buy the space, Jack, but we've had brands rebuy the space. So it's not like they buy it one time, oh my gosh, that was a terrible investment, let's never do that again. It's more like, oh my gosh, that was a great investment, let's re-up. So we've now got 2022 contracts on the media side coming onto the books, which means that from our perspective, because we have a 33% ownership participation in the media revenue, we're going to pay all the costs of the network. But when we get those distributions, which are coming slightly faster than we thought, they're going to be material. And I can put that beside my license revenue as a way to fortify and validate the deal.
Okay, so very important. I think so. One of the big, the big takeaways in the last year. I think when you first came on the program last year, you were just in the early stages of the ad sales, or did you start selling ads by then? I don't know. You were.
So the best part about this is the joint venture has actually created its own management team.
Okay.
I don't spend every moment of every day selling ads on the ABI network. There are people, professionals, who've done this before, doing that. And so because I sit on the board of Winkle as the representative of visibility, I get immediate updates and cadence reports and that sort of thing. And in the last 60 days, my confidence has grown by leaps and bounds because that team is executing. And we're now seeing, as we modify and adjust our cash flows and performance for the JV going forward, I see that now manifestly delivering on the promise of the media revenue, which to me was the great unknown. I'm media conscious, I'm media aware, I know the space, but I'm not a media guy. So that was always the risk of the model, right? I'm a software guy. So we build software and capabilities to support that media sell, but we're not that media sell. That's the first part. And the second part,
Jay, this is a little bit like Google. You know, the guys, they knew about software, they knew how to do search, but nobody really knew, could these guys actually sell those ads? Or same thing with Facebook. So nobody knew Facebook could sell ads. When they start, nobody really knew. And then they did. So just the same thing here.
I turned around slightly.
And you're the Google of the physical.
Well, sure, but I would say that I didn't know if we could sell it. Sure, that's an appropriate characterization. But more importantly, I didn't know if brands were going to buy it. And I know that sounds like it's the same side of a different side of the same coin. But what's really valuable here is that brands are seeing the value of in-store media impressions. And that's the big takeaway. I can tell you something else.
And this is relatively new. I mean, this store as medium concept. I mean, with digital, it's still, with hyper targeting, it's still a new concept for a lot of these guys. So you're basically
it's not hyperbole to talk about us owning a pioneering and leadership position in this category. It's not hyperbole. I mean, it sounds crazy for a small cap. We've recently had Boston Consulting Group, as I think I may have mentioned to you before, saying the store articulating as a media channel is $100 billion business by 25. This is from almost nowhere. So
this is Boston Consulting Group told you this.
Yes, and I can actually make that available. We'll actually put it on our website because I know that shareholders will probably want to see it. I'm going to make a quick note to do that.
Oh yeah, please. We never talked about this before. This is This is a we're getting some new information. Stores medium 100 billion.
So this isn't guesswork. This isn't conjecture anymore. And certainly there were years when, as we were toiling away in the evangelical, segment of the creation of this business, we were absolutely shouting, and maybe no one was hearing. But now we're at a point where there's a real inflection going on. Walmart has created their own media company. Target has created their own media company. This is underway right now. Absolutely. And I was going to make a quick point about the ABI thing, because there's two parts of that relationship that we're navigating on a regular basis. First of all, we're co-managing and co-owning the cadence of the media sales. So ABI is involved, we're involved, there's high collaboration going on. But once you build a network that connects all these stores together, you have to start thinking about what other things you can do of value to ABI to eliminate the pain. And we will soon be talking about projects, but we've just now added 2 additional revenue producing projects, which aren't advertising based. They're not based upon creating brand new revenue. They're based upon creating operational efficiencies in the stores. Once you have a network, what are the things that you can do using IoT, digital infrastructure, and network to be able to inform the brand or the owner of the infrastructure what's going on? And parts of these are built upon planogram compliance, for those of you that understand how in-store works, eliminating fraud and planogram compliance, understanding inventory management. Computer vision is uniquely equipped to address those problems. Now, I understand that that's maybe a bit in the weeds, but the point here is, now that we've established a working relationship with ABI, it's trusted, it's collaborative, we're doing other things to create new revenue, which is exactly the hypothesis of why we did this.
Okay, no, so it's really interesting because they're basically, okay, so it's sort of, I don't want to use the word Trojan horse, but like once you're inside the store, once you're inside these stores, you have this massive network. There's a lot of additional things, services you could layer on top. So right now you have the ad business, you have the security component business, and now there's this third aspect, which we're kind of talking
about. Third and fourth aspect. Think of the power of connecting in real time all of the transactions occurring across a 10,000 location network, as an example.
Should we refer to this as the big data aspect of the business?
It's all big data. Yeah. You talk to any major brands, pick one of the top 2,000 brands in the world, and the most strategic thing, I should modify and edit my comments. The number one strategic thing, and this is odd, 2 years ago we wouldn't be saying this, is, believe it or not, sustainability. And number 2 is data, big data. But it's a close second. The point is, it's in the top 3 initial things that big brands worry about. They figure the more they know about the cadence of their inventory and supply chain and relationship with their customer, the more intimate they are with their customer, the more momentum and velocity on sales that they'll achieve. And it's not a whimsical notion.
Yeah. Now, okay. So the number, now you actually, so again, you're generating revenues. The numbers are growing by leaps and bounds. I think last quarter you announced, was it 4.5 million in bookings? This is
no. That was revenue, and it was 522 USD. I have it in front of me here.
Wait, I got it completely wrong. Okay, so it's even better. Wait, 5 million revenues or bookings?
No. 522,000 USD was the revenue in Q3.
Okay, but the bookings were 4.5 million.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so the bookings is, I mean, that's really that is the thing that translates into revenues, as the stuff, kicks in. So it's like down.
As a small cap CEO, I understand the focus on revenue. But what I try to do is not shift the dialogue, but augment the dialogue so that people understand that revenue is trailing. It's what you did. And TCV, total contract value, bookings, is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that metric is growing quarter over quarter, and together constitutes the future health of the company. And on that instance, I'm extremely proud of the execution of the team.
I mean, the most important, listen, you're a SaaS company. SaaS companies are value-based. On the bookings is the thing that everybody looks at, right? Like, I mean, maybe, in the next 18 months, as the company matures, then the revenue is going to be much more, it's going to be
I accept
more.
that. Yeah, I know that'll happen.
But
Yeah.
right now, the number that everybody really needs to look at is the bookings. Now, here's the question I ask you. The bookings number, does that include ad sales or no?
No, because that sits on the joint venture's balance sheet.
Okay.
The only time it impacts us is when there's a distribution, right? And this is why, in preparation for a distribution or a dividend, if you will, because we're preparing for that quickly, we've now created a Mexican subsidiary so that we can receive those dividends or distributions in a tax efficient manner. And that's the things we do just internally to get ready for that.
Okay. Now the future of the company, really, the big money is going to be, I mean, from the ad business, right? From the ad revenues. That's a huge thing, the ad tech business. So, when can we see? So, are you saying we're going to be seeing in the next quarter possibly the first indication of these numbers from the ad sales?
The first thing we'll see is, to the extent that I'm allowed to share, is the joint ventures balance sheet. We'll get some peeks at that, because as the shareholders of VSBLTY, we have a right to see what's happening in one of our significant interests. And then over time, that becomes a balance sheet impacting KPI or metric, because we're getting distributions for that company. There are models that we've signed off on as a board as to when those distributions will begin. I'm not prepared to share them because that's a joint venture. The name of the joint venture is Winkle. That's a joint venture decision, not my decision. So it would be inappropriate for me to say, I'm going to hold these guys to the planning, because it doesn't allow for the pivot and the modification and the adjustment in the business plan. However, we are expecting revenue from that joint venture in 22.
Okay, but that's okay. So that's okay. So I think, because I think a lot of people may not be clear. Okay, so two things. One is the revenues you've had so far, the bookings. That is only the licensing side. That's only the X amount of dollars you get per installation in all these stores, things like that.
Primarily,
money, right? But the real money is going to come from the ad tech business, which we're expecting 200 million plus in the next few years. You're going to get a third of that, and that's off the top, right? It basically goes right to the bottom line. You have no costs. That's your cut, right? So let's call that 70 million a year, 3 years, and obviously it's going to grow into that. So in theory, I'm thinking in 2022 is we could see 15 million revenues from that business. I mean, is that fair to say? Because you have.
I'm reluctant to say, and not because I'm trying to be stealth or coy or I just it's impacted by the cadence of deployment. It's impacted by the inventory sellout. Is it 50% or 100%? There's a lot of components that go into that. We expect revenue from that joint venture in 22, and that revenue will grow quarter over quarter. Now, just so you know, we're a learning machine here. Other deals we're negotiating, particularly deals we're negotiating in the C-store and grocery space right now, have us participating on the advertising revenue. A year ago, we'd made proposal that just has us participating on the license revenue, but inspired by this idea and the momentum that's occurring in Latin America, and recognizing that not participating is leaving money on the table. Almost every one of our deals, not all of our deals, but almost every one of our deals has us with that blue sky component, if you know what I mean by that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is this is where all the money is in the ad business.
Yeah, and if we can successfully build a software support system that allows for more rapid and more seamless capturing of that revenue, we should participate in the revenue. So that's basically been our argument.
Okay, and and what about so right now the big stores, you got the Modelo stores, ABI InBev, that's in Latin America. What about? I know there's been talk about expansion outside, into the U.S. possibly other countries. I think India was mentioned at one point. I don't know if you said it, somebody said it, but what's the plans for this year in terms of global domination for VSBY?
Well, I'm not going to talk about a shutout with 4 minutes left in the third period, but India is a really good, interesting, and attractive market to us and to our partners. That would be a wonderful first quarter initiative for us to get done. There is active dialogue, and it's size. There's nothing in India that's small. Right? There's just nothing that's small. So that's an appropriate target, and it's appropriate goal and objective for our organization.
Okay. What about
so you asked about other countries, if I might just finish that. We are not disclosing at this moment, but another country has been added to the Modelorama ABI project.
Okay.
We expect to have stores up and running. Could be that late this month if we get fortunate, and if not, it'll be January that those stores will be up and running. And that's a particularly interesting marketplace where ABI has local dominance, a lot of local influence, and a really significant footprint.
Like what, Brazil? I mean, which markets?
They haven't cleared me to talk about it, and I'm not going to be a reckless cowboy. So I'm excited about it. We're excited about it. We're in process of deploying it at the moment. And the best way to get on the wrong side of them is to be a cowboy.
Okay.
I'm not going to be.
I'm guessing it. This is nothing that I'm just.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you got Latin America. We're gonna what about the U.S.? When can we see some announcements of U.S. Deals?
Well, I want to remind the viewers and you that there was an announcement around U.S., which was Phoenix Vision. I don't think the market's fully appreciated that, and that's totally fine. I don't think we've given them enough information.
People forget about things, like the next day. So we got to remind them.
Well, that's right. Small caps, news driven. Yeah, I understand. So Phoenix Vision is a key and critical partner. They're in revenue now. They have built a network now. We are supporting them and replacing their entire technology infrastructure. And together, Phoenix Vision and VSBLTY are pursuing 2 deals, one domestic and one international.
Now, wait, is this the one? This is the one with the charging stations, or that's a different?
No, Phoenix Vision is a what you might call a pure play media company.
Okay. This is the announcement about. Okay. So this was a little while back. Okay, but also you also put out an announcement about the ads on these EV charging stations. The whole
it's a fascinating area, Jack. So that deal is EOS. Okay. It focused initially on the Atlanta marketplace, where there's something like 600 units EV charging stations going in that marketplace. But you can imagine the EV category is absolutely on fire at the moment.
There's two of the hottest stocks right now. What is it, Blink? Another one, ChargePoint. So and the pure play EV charging, right? So I think the one thing that these guys are and their goal is, hey, we're going to have millions of these charging stations in offices everywhere globally, right? But the one thing they're missing is the thing that you're offering, which is the ads and the security aspect, which is hey, make sure nobody damages the thing.
Let me give you the business model, which is quite fascinating to me. And every day I'm learning about this new category. There's in the neighborhood of 600 billion going into EV, both private and public investment. Just in the US, it's a lot of money. There's a problem, and the problem is that we all want to have a clean planet by 2030. We want to have zero emission, and the infrastructure is just not in place right now. About 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago, I met with the CEO of a former state-owned public utility in Europe, and they had deployed their first 3,000 EV charging stations in the country that they're a dominant player. And I only bring this up because I learned a lot from this particular meeting, which has expanded our go-to-market and our plans. He told me that of the 3,000 charging stations that they put in place, they tried something, and they included 60-inch large format digital display and computer vision on 100 of those units, not ours. Every one of the units that has digital display was profitable. Every one of them that didn't was not profitable, was subsidized by the public utility. So that's a slam dunk. It tells you that you must deploy digital display for ad delivery and computer vision, because that allows you to monetize and will take you from a loss to a profit, just based upon their experience.
Okay, so essentially, so this is something that maybe we could see in the next, in this coming year in 2022, is really VSBY being kind of this pure play on the charging station business, because really they will need to have, and this is going to be, the ad revenue is going to be, a key part of.
I that feedback to our friends at Intel, and the consensus was, we better find a way to impact this because it's going to explode. And they grabbed a hold of it, as Intel has been doing with ideation that comes from us pretty routinely. And we've now had multiple workshops with major EV participants to figure out how we crack this code. I'm not telling you or the shareholders that we'll absolutely crack this code, because you don't know until you know. But we've got a real opportunity in that space. We've got a unique value proposition because we both do digital display and computer vision. Computer vision, this CEO of the public utility told me something else that I want to mention to you. He said, we don't know when a unit is in a fault status. So the only way we know is that when we look at our metrics, we notice that station 1, 2, 3, 7, 9 hasn't charged the car in 5 days. And that's atypical, so it must be broken. That's the fault management. Well, computer vision can identify fault management. It can either identify fault management by identifying the fact that, well, there's normally a charge that happens within every 64 minutes on this location, and there hasn't been one for 120 minutes. That could be representative of fault status. Computer vision can see that and report on that. Computer vision, by the way, while providing a defensive posture or an operational benefit, can also help with the monetization of advertising, because it'll tell you this many people, these people, because when you go to an EV station, your identity is known because you have a relationship with charging. You're paying for that charging. So it's no longer fire and forget broadcast advertising. It is narrowcast advertising directly to Jack.
Okay. And now the other thing that you have is you also have the security layer that you can add on top of that.
And I shouldn't have diminished that, because you're right. Vandalism, a bunch of things.
In terms of security, tracking, whatever, and we'll get into the security aspect of VSBY's business in just a second. But so really, I think this could be a critical component for the EV business, having really VSBY as a partner in terms of on the ad tech side and also the computer vision, big data side, because you really do need to have those things if you're going to have a network. Like all these guys, their ambitions are to have networks of 100,000 stations.
We've dedicated a team along with our friends at Intel to focus and deliver results in that category in 22.
So this is one catalyst that I don't think anybody has realized, or even nobody's talking about. Nobody has realized that this is really like one of the big opportunities for VSBY, which is like, it's sort of like an iceberg. Like people don't even see it. It's like, but there's a massive iceberg that is underneath the surface, which is going to come up at some point, and people say, "Wow, this could
right.
be that could be the EV business could be bigger than."
Yes, of course. But this is why I can skillfully dodge the criticism that this is, oh my gosh, it's just yet another marketplace you can pursue. How do you do all that? Well, we do all that by intelligent partnering. We build our plumbing. We're going to build that plumbing anyway. If you can apply that plumbing into 50 different markets, why the hell wouldn't you do that? Especially when you have partners like EOS that are well-financed, well-understood, well-regarded, and have reach. That's our go-to-market. And all we need to do is focus on their needs, and together we'll land and expand.
Yeah, again, I think it's very important for anybody that's new to the story is to understand essentially, VSBY is just purely a technology, really an IP technology company.
We're a platform company.
You're not manufacturing anything. You don't have guys in the field. Everything is done through partners. It's almost like they still make Dolby. I don't know. It's a license. So it's a technology which and people license it. That's what makes everything work. So it's the margins are massive. Okay, we're getting a little bit short on time. I want to talk about two key aspects of the business, which is the security side of the business, which kind of ties into some of the other things, and also Austin GIS, and then we'll open up for questions. So the security aspect, Jay, just from a high level, talk about some of the capabilities and how this is being used in the market, and maybe examples of how it could be used.
Yeah, sure. On the security side, what we do is we build, it's a geeky term, but we build inference logic. And inference logic can be instructed to identify an object of interest or an event of interest or a person of interest or a mix thereof. An example of an object of interest would be a weapon. If a weapon is seen in the field of view, physical optical weapon, like not concealed, but held up, seen. Our cameras at a distance even can identify that's happened, can engage in that event with an alerting mechanism that actually is connected to things like building workflow. An example of that would be when a weapon is detected, let's lock down the building. Now, we all know about the active shooter DNA in the US. You see how that would be useful? So we have an enormous opportunity just in building safety. Facial recognition. There's people that are coming into a building, and some of whom are allowed to be there and some of whom are not allowed to be there. Facial recognition is a perfect example for that. Facial recognition in the wild is identifying, scanning groups of people, looking for people that are wanted by the police, as an example. A license plate detection, following a vehicle through a smart city infrastructure for the purposes of forensic investigation or whatever. Zone crossing. I have people moving from a place they are allowed to be to a place they're not allowed to be, which is an alert mechanism. So those are all examples of AI logic running on infrastructure and cameras that are benefiting for city analytics and for surveillance.
Okay, so in terms of revenues, like you got deals right now, right? I mean, like this is going to be added on top of, this is a layer that can be added, on top of, for example, the EV stations, the coolers, like this is being used in in today's news, was it radar? I get these guys mixed up. Radar app. So you have a deployment in Mexico right now. You have a bunch of these things going on. Like, what is?
So Mexico City, kind of like Manhattan, is divided up into boroughs. Except in Mexico City, they call them counties. Each county has a mayor. We've got 4 or 5 counties underway right now: Benito Juarez, Miguel Hidalgo, Coajimalpa, and this is an additional county, a brand new mayor who sees what his peers are doing in other, close proximity counties. And enormous impact. We've got a couple mayors reelected because of the tangible increase in safety.
Okay, that's hot button. Yeah. So there's a guy knows that, hey, if he uses VSBY, he's going to get reelected, maybe for life.
Well, I don't know that it's a cynical thing to think, I suppose, but that's practical, right?
Because basically, what your system does is it is the security aspect, but there's also like the quality of life in terms of making sure
quality of life, the sense of safety, the sentiment of safety, the feeling of being protected. Just putting a camera up increases those sentiment metrics. But this is Magdalena Contreras, which is a part of Mexico City, and we're in first phase of a deployment with them. And the decision they made, unlike some other counties who have both dumb cameras, no AI logic running on them, and smart cameras, AI logic running on them, 100% of the cameras in Magdalena Contreras are AI cameras. So this will be a really interesting litmus test for us. And it's the first phase. It's 4 phases, and it's going county-wide. So we're excited about that. It's just another notch on our belt here that allows us to have greater coverage in Mexico City. The greater the coverage we have, the greater ability we have to track individuals or cars as they navigate through the various boroughs.
Okay, and of course, all this like underlying technology, the machine learning, everything, you can leverage it and deploy that when you, let's say, when you do the stuff with the EV charging stations globally. I mean,
certainly, it's the same plumbing.
Same plumbing,
Right?
exactly. Okay, we're kind of running a little bit late, so I want to ask you real quick about Austin GIS, and then I want to see if we have, let's say, 10 minutes to go through. We've got a lot of questions. I want to see if we can.
Sure. Okay, so really quickly on Austin GIS, and unfortunately, because I don't have clearance to talk about all the participants, everyone but one. There are 5 participants in Austin GIS. August created. Radar App, which is the company with whom we built the Mexican deployment. Small, in our business, we call them ISVs, independent software vendors. They're a 10% owner. Visibility, 10% owner. And on the board, Tech Mahindra, a $20 billion Indian company, they're a 10% owner. Tech Mahindra, a 10% owner. And then a large, unnamed, large player who own the majority. And the reason why that company is not yet named is the company AGIS is allegedly in stealth mode, something I argue with at the moment, but it'll come out of stealth mode in the first quarter of next year. And at that point, all will be known about who they are and who the players are and what's the strategy. But I got to tell you, it's a very important deal for us because it gives us equity ownership in something that already looks like it's going to be significant value. I understand it's going extremely well. I don't have clearance to talk about their financial metrics, but I was briefed just a week or so ago, and I was blown away by how quickly they're rolling. And it's only been 4 or 5 months.
Okay, and this is basically like an infrastructure as a service.
Yes, large deals. Their target is $200 million plus. So instead of you, Jack, deploying cameras, servers, network, all that thing in the city of XYZ, the city of XYZ goes to Austin GIS and they sign a 10-year contract where everything is paid for on a month-to-month basis per month, per camera, whatever. And so this Austin GIS has secured debt instruments to be able to do that over the long term.
Okay, so these are basically big government deals. I mean, this is like, and they're doing it for you. In other words, all you're doing is the technology. You're giving them the technology, and you're getting a piece of the action. You have to
not only a piece of the action, Jack, but we have a ROFR, we have a right of first refusal, where if anything in a new opportunity touches or leverages computer vision, we get to say if we want it or don't want it. So there's an enormous upside potential for us. And 3 of the very large deals they've done already has visibility licensing at the core. So we're already beginning to benefit. I project, although, I'd love to be wrong because it would mean that somebody else has supplanted them, but I project within a year or so, Austin GIS will be our largest customer.
Okay, so this could be really huge. And so we'll do you think that that the Austin GIS business could that potentially become, a majority of your business in 22? Could that account for the majority of revenues in 22? Is it possible?
It's possible, yes.
Okay, I mean, essentially, Austin GIS could be much bigger than everything you're doing now. So in other words,
and I think you might also know that Visibility has a 30% carried interest in something called Radar USA, which is the creation of a U.S. entity combining the assets and capabilities of Radar App in Mexico and Visibility in the USA to build infrastructure for police departments, for homeowners associations, for schools, hospitals, and various infrastructure. Austin GIS has a deal with Radar USA to do that with them. So, and we have a 30% ownership in Radar USA. So we've got a bunch of at-bats here, right?
Okay, so this is what makes, a super stock when you have multiple catalysts in place that are built in, which could have, this massive impact on the valuation. So like right now, nobody is even accounting for the Austin GIS.
And I get it. I understand it.
And that could be potentially 10 times the size of,
right.
And the EV side of the business. And, there's a bunch of like things which could become really huge in the next.
It's really easy to drift into the promotion / hyperbole of Visibility. I try to avoid that and focus on execution and delivery.
Let me skip that part.
Okay, but you're right. I mean, there are multiple.
No, legitimately, there is this stuff is it's like a dream. This is it's like a dream scenario because you really have these things that are, these built-in catalysts that, are going to emerge in the next, 12 months, which could be huge. Let's get into some audience questions. Okay, Bob asking, I think he's asking Jay, not to me. Okay, 2021 budget billings. What is going on with FEMSA, Imbera, and Jay?
I don't talk about deals that aren't done, and investors ask me all the time, and I understand it, but I just, we're out of the 50 million market cap thrust and parry of small caps, and we're playing with big partners. The best way to pee in the pool, I was going to think of a different way to say that, but the best way to do that is to talk, casually and without constraint about your pipeline. I understand why people want it, especially small caps who are driven by news, but I can't do it. Our vision is $1 billion to $1.5 billion market cap company, and the best way to put that vision at risk is to start being cowboy about your pipeline. I won't do it, and I appreciate the need to do it. We got to thread the needle.
Yeah, you know what I would say for any investors that they want to know, okay, who are the partners, what's coming up, is just look at what the company has done in the past. I mean, so you could extrapolate from there. I mean, you're dealing with some major players.
We're pretty good. We're pretty good, I would say, Jack. I'm not a guy to sort of pat myself on the back, but the team is pretty good at landing big, influential, sizable, committed partners. WestRock is an S&P component company. Johnson Controls, we all know who they are. Intel. I mean, the list is a long list, and I didn't even mention ABI.
Yeah. No, it's actually I tell you, it's incredible because when you think about all the partnerships, everything, it's really all these blue chip partners. It's not. I don't know of any micro caps. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever come across a micro cap, and this is in maybe several decades, which has the level that that you have at VSBY. I mean, and especially this Austin GIS. The Austin GIS though is basically discounted because nobody really knows a lot about it.
I understand why it's discounted.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
It's a freebie. It's a surprise. Yeah. It's an upside. It could be a massive upside surprise. Okay, so let's see. Okay, question here. Jay, you've stated 2021 revenue 4 to 7 million. 22. Okay, 22. Next year's revenue 12 to 50 million revenue.
Yeah.
Is that still still on for?
I'm not going to front run our revenue because we're just too close to the end here to say it. But no, we have been impacted by supply chain. We have been impacted by the ramping up of our partners, especially in Latin America. I'm speaking specifically of Tech Mahindra, and those will have a modest impact. But I think shareholders at the end of the year will be pretty happy with how we've. Despite all of that, persevered and secured a sizable revenue metric for 21, and then the setup for 22 is even more significant than we had previously thought.
Okay, comment from Bob's. Okay, 4 million billings, 15 million billing, runway for 22, 45 to 50 million with 10 million in equipment.
I think it's more of a statement than a question.
A question. Statement is a statement.
Yeah.
Okay, question from Jeremy. Jay, you mentioned that you're picking and choosing which jobs, I guess, which partnerships you're taking on so you can execute. I would assume that is because you do not have the infrastructure to handle more. So what are you doing so you're not?
What a great question.
Do you have enough bandwidth? Yeah.
No, the answer is no, we don't. And I'm being honest with the shareholders. But we're fixing it this way. And about 3 weeks ago, we had an executive management strategy session, which was externally facilitated, something I particularly like to do because it allows for the bias to be removed, or at least somewhat effectively removed. We're adding 14 headcount, and we've already added 3 of the 14, and all those people are execution based, deal flow based. We've got 3 people that are going to be responsible for what we call channel management, which is all these big partners that I've mentioned before. They're being managed principally by me and by my chief commercial officer and our chief revenue officer. And we're distributing the load a little bit better, which allows us to scale. Now, before people ask the question, we think we can do this in a very accretive way, and we don't think it's going to impact our overall spend enormously or delay our profitability in a material way. So we think that every one of those people that we've identified will immediately hit the ground and create meaningful revenue impact.
Okay, so basically, so right now you're hiring these new hires, these channel managers. So I'm assuming
Only three of those are channel management. We're making an
oh,
investment in data science. We're
okay,
developing a professional services group inside the company for customers that want like 92% of what we do, and then 8% of a bunch of stuff we don't do. So we have to have that ability to create custom application capability.
okay. So for example, like one channel manager could be just that guy's focused on EV charging stations, partnerships,
Yeah.
deployments. The other one is just
So it's great question. We'll have a vertical orientation like that, and we'll have a account designation. WestRock as a company is really doubling down on us right now, and so what they've asked for is dedicated team, and so we'll build underneath the channel management. We'll build a dedicated team. Now they won't be only that and nothing else, but they will have a direct responsibility for that.
But WestRock, they're going to be deploying your system in the U.S., right? This is WestRock is in the U.S. market, right?
Yes, for sure, the U.S.
Okay.
But elsewhere as well.
Okay, so just to clarify, so you have a partnership with WestRock. They're the ones who make all the display, the traditional display, in-store displays, like paper displays, a massive company, and also you have Sensormatic, which is Johnson Controls Sensormatic, which is those the security systems. So you have these tremendous and those are the guys that get you into these stores. In other words, it's not like Jay Hutton is calling up a Walgreens and pitching them on a deal. It's really the guys at John.
In some cases it is. In some cases it is. But in most cases, what we've identified those partners for is reach and C-level access. Because when you pitch your deal, especially a deal like ours, which is disruptive and changes the game on a lot of things, and when you pitch it at C-level, you get significantly more buy-in than if you go at a lower level. And WestRock and Johnson Controls are two examples of us skipping the middle layer and going right to the top.
Skippy asking, was there a VSBY installation at New York's Penn Station last month?
That one's out of the bag. Yeah, yes, there was. And it's not the only one in the wild out there, because we've got this sort of weirdness that we're doing innovative marketing solutions and retail solutions for very large brands. In many cases, the brands want to be the entity that messages that to the street. So when we front run them, it gets very uncomfortable.
Okay, yeah. So, in other words, as far as so if anybody sees one of these things, like let's say the Penn Station, they don't see VSBY's name is not on it. It's usually the brand. Like basically, you're in the background. You're like Intel inside, right? That's the old thing. You're like VSBY inside. It's not like they're going to see everything. So let the brands take the credit, everything else, and you're basically supplying the IP.
Yes, the first place that people that own shares in VSBLTY will notice that is either in our financials when we identify the momentum caused by that, or if we get fortunate, we convince the brand to talk about us in a more open way. And it's a 50-50 proposition. And I would say that brands are more and more willing to talk about their innovation in retail, because in a way it's a badge of honor for them as well, right? That they're deploying innovative solutions directly at retail.
Okay, so is any plans for Austin GS to go public? Well, we're seeing the spin out from Intel. Intel is spinning out that what is it? What's the huge business? The car business, that car vision, whatever.
Autonomous driving. Yeah.
So is that a possibility that Austin can, be monetized?
So while I am on the board of Austin GIS, I am not the decision maker on that possibility. I can tell you that has been actively discussed. It's not the only potential liquidity event. What is it, Jack? Something like 1.3 trillion in SPAC money expires in November of 22. Oh. So I think that there's some real interesting possibilities there as well.
Okay, interesting. Now, I'm thinking that maybe you have these 5 major blue chip partners. I think probably from a diplomatic standpoint, for all of them to be kind of aligned, get along, they probably would want to have a public company that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting that for me it's fascinating because I get a front row seat. But Tech Mahindra and HCL are both Indian-based companies, and they're massively competitive with one another. So it is very interesting, the dynamic that occurs in the room. And you're right. The best way for them to sort of feel comfortable about their 10% minority participation in this company is under a construct which is more transparent and all the things that a public company gives you. So that's a very real possibility, brought about not by circumstances in the business, but by the dynamics of the board.
Okay. Okay, Jay, two more questions. I'm sorry, we're way behind here. We got to do another thing, like it might have to be a 2-hour type of deal. Jay, how is the cash position going forward over the next year? Do you have enough cash? Or I guess they're asking, is there going to be a raise? Will there be dilution? That's the big question.
We have no plans for a raise. We have had the benefit of the last financing had what I might call a pocket financing with a bunch of warrants. We've had the enormous benefit over the last 90 days, something in the neighborhood of $3.5 to $4 million of warrants come in, which was a sort of already dilutive. I wouldn't say that it was non-dilutive because the dilution was taken earlier, right? And that cash has come in, and we're sitting with a very strong balance sheet. And I would say that barring a catastrophe, we'll eke out profitability based upon what we have available to us from a cash point of view right now, with no need to tout the marketplace outside of an enormous, unbelievably important and valuable transaction on the acquisition side, which I don't see at the moment.
Okay. All right, Jay, last question, wrap up here. Okay. So you were already, December 16th. What, can we expect any big news in the next 2-3 weeks? Anything to wrap up the year with? What's kind of milestones?
Yeah, I've announced the one security deal this morning. There's another security deal, and just to be clear to everybody, I don't know if I'll be able to announce it. It's with a sovereign government, and that's been done, and it's a large deal. It's a 17,000 camera deal over multiple years, and I'm going to try and find a way to cryptically get some of the details out, because I think the shareholders deserve to know, and I've spoken about it a couple of times in this kind of format. I have a couple of entities to navigate. I have systems integrated to navigate, and I've got a very aggressive government entity to navigate. So set your expectations low, understand that it's done and in the books, but might not be wildly and fully disclosed. And that's just part of the game in security. And I'm sorry to say it, sorry to report it, but that is the reality. Other things we've got going is we've got a bunch of momentum around a set of partnerships, alliances that we've never done before, that are brand new to us, that are extremely strategic around what is projected to be the NRF show, although I heard this morning that could be at risk because of Omicron, which would be tragic. We'll find a different way to get it out, but that's January 16th. Some important deals for us that we've been preparing for several months. That's the short term. CensorMac has got a new product coming out with us at the core in the second quarter of 21. Those are the sort of majors, and continued progress on a couple of things around convenience store in the US and an offshore international media network that we're looking at the moment.
Okay, so to wrap up, I would just say from an investor's perspective, one big thing that keeps popping up is, I think one of the big value drivers in the VSB story for investors is really, the company's underlying value is actually, increasing dramatically, because you have this massive moat in terms of the relationships that you have with some of these partners, with the government sales and everything else. For, let's say, a player like let's say Google, somebody who wants to be in this kind of space of big data, that type of, they wouldn't be able to build that internally. It'd be very, very difficult. And I think it's much cheaper for somebody like that to, let's say, write a check for, I don't know, $2-3 billion, and have that thing, I'm not saying that you would sell at $2-3 billion, but it's a possibility.
When I sit back, as you do on a fairly regular basis, just to be smart and proactive, when I sit back and look at potential acquisition exit paths, I don't put Google in the mix. I don't think we're on their radar. I think we will be eventually. I just don't think we are. They've got a lot of things going on internally, which distracts them from where the growth segments are. And the growth is absolutely in this whole store as media, for sure. But there's 4 or 5 critical participants and strategics on that list that are 40 billion, 50 billion, 80 billion market cap companies. So I don't think we need to have Google on our list to be comfortable that we've got an exit path.
Yeah,
and we're not looking to exit right now. So
no, okay. I'm just using Google as a kind of because they've always this is an area which they've always wanted to get into, but again, like you said, they're kind of distracted because they got a lot of internal things going, but they've tried, with that, what is it, the smart cities stuff that they do. It's something that which,
they have a group called Google Sidewalk.
That's the one. Okay.
Which is precisely in our arena. Listen, those guys are aware of us, but just because that business unit is aware of us doesn't mean Alphabet is aware of us, right? So I think we'll just keep chipping away, playing the long game, executing, and we'll rise on the radar at some point.
So again, the takeaways again, the value, this massive value of having these moats, the big catalysts, with let's say Austin GIS, and you have multiple catalysts right now in place, which could be worth a multiple of what the stock is right now. So it's pretty crazy. Jay, okay, let's catch up in the new year.
Wonderful.
Okay,
have a great.
We're gonna have to do like a 2-hour block to get to the questions.
We can do that. I know how to talk for 2 hours.
Okay, Jay, thank you very much.
All right, cheers. Okay, thank you. Have a good holiday season. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, all right. Thank you everybody for your patience. Let's get to patience. David, thank you for standing by.
No problem.
We're a little bit late. We got but we got a
lot. Well, listening to Jay at Visibility was great to hear. Right, I think they're doing phenomenal.
So listen. So now, David, you got to be the next 10 bagger. That I think VSBY's up. I think 15x. We're expecting the same thing now at Liquid Avatar. So let's.
I've had in my past, I've had 30 and 40 baggers. So I'm not immune to that. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully for this.
Okay, good. So we gotta make history repeat. Past as. What is it? Prologue? Prelude? What do they call it? Prologue? Is it prologue?
Well, I've done it. I've done it more than once. So we'll see what happens if lightning can strike a third or fourth time would be great. So
okay, perfect. Let me just get everything set up on the screen here.
No worries.
Let's see. Okay, let me just do a quick intro for anybody watching this later. Okay. Welcome to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, December 16th. We are back with Liquid Avatar, LQID on the CSC, LQAVF over the counter. Number one company in the metaverse space, number one microcap in the metaverse. I mean, technically, I know there's another company, theoretically that says they're in the metaverse, formerly Facebook, but Liquid Avatar is now really the pure play metaverse stock. We're going to be learning about the path to get to that 10x, 100x upside in 2022. So David, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me here.
David, listen, the main focus today is I kind of want to get a recap of where the company has been, where you've taken it in the last 12 months, because I mean you've really grown by leaps and bounds. It's really been a transformative year. But most importantly, okay, what's the path ahead for 2022? And I think you just came out a piece of news last week, which I mean, I thought it was mind blowing. I think you did like something like $700,000 in sales in this digital land NFT, which is $700,000 is not a lot, for a company like again Facebook or whatever, but it's a massive number. In just nobody was expecting it, and you're doing this in NFT. I think you're the only. I think right now, Liquid Avatar has got to be the only company that has any decent revenues in this metaverse, the pure play metaverse.
Well, I will say that one of our friends yesterday in the metaverse, which has got about $1 million, or a private company, is being acquired by a SPAC for about $700 million. So I think I would say we're, and that's US versus Canadian dollars, and so I think we're a bit undervalued right now, just a bit undervalued, considering we have, and that group actually met with us at Comic-Con. Some partners in that group met with us at Comic-Con because we're all friends in the space, and And you know, we're not only looking at, I call it the 3 C's, Jack. It's cooperative, collaborative, and then competitive. And we're all sort of in that same vein. So we're seeing, you know, organizations that have involved in major transactions partnering with us. We're now talking to brands about how do we get brands involved in the metaverse. But what's been really amazing is we took a bit of a different tact. As we've said many times, our core business is digital identity. That is the power of Web 3.0. That's the decentralization point of knowing that you are you, I am me, without transferring any personalized information. So we're really at that core. And I'm speaking tomorrow at a metaverse conference in the morning on digital identity. So very short, but very hopefully very poignant piece on that. And we're sponsors of that event. And then we're around that we've got avatars. And if I could take a minute, I'm going to try and show everyone where avatars are going, because we're seeing a lot of hype and a lot of, you know, voxel graphics and everything else. But I want to show something for those that may not have seen it, and I'm going to try and do this because I've never done this before on. Let's see if I can share my screen, and bear with me for a second while I put my glasses on. Share my screen. And I don't know. Can you see my screen there? Okay.
Not yet.
All right, but I think you will be in a second.
Okay.
So tell me when you can see this. Can you see that?
Okay, here we go. Here
right. It's called the Metaverse Project. This is our avatar project. I'm about to play a video. The video does not have any sound, so no one will miss it if it doesn't have sound. But let me play this for you. This is the way we think of avatars. This is a creation of a real person. This is, you know, Westworld, Future World, whatever you want to call it. We can morph anyone into any size that they choose. But here's the real kicker. Not only can we make you a representation of yourself, this is where it gets really crazy. Watch this. We can add your face and your personal attributes, do anything you want with that avatar, and then make them have powers and attributes alongside the actual avatar itself. So I'm going to try and come back. I think I've stopped sharing my screen. So that is part of our avatar platform. That avatar will be able to go into their back pocket and literally present their digital identity to someone on screen. So we go from digital identity to avatars straight into the metaverse, really into the metaverse where land exists.
Okay, so we're gonna go through all those things one by one. There's a lot. This is like
lot to unpack.
Here's, you know, this whole thing is just so new right now. Like, in other words, like this conversation we're having about metaverse stuff, it kind of reminds me of like conversations. You know, it's like about, you know, the internet. You know, like in 1990,
the internet or the intranet, because there was both.
But nobody, you know, let's say in 1995, like nobody really, like, you know, there was a lot of like, you know, but all of a sudden this is now, is this considered with the metaverse? Is this like Web 3.0, Internet 3.0 or something?
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, Jack, you and I came to you yesterday, said, look, I'm going to be on the show tomorrow. I want to give every one of your viewers an opportunity to get a free piece of metaverse land. And we gave everyone a code that expires.
Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. We gave a code.
WSR, Wall Street Reporter 2021. WSR 2021. If you go to aftermathislands.com and you want to buy a piece of land for $55, we've given you a coupon. Type in that code at checkout and you get it for free. I will tell you, people are responding. So your listeners, your viewers understand where this is going. And what for us that means is every person who buys, 26% approximately of those who are buying one property are coming back for a second property. Some are coming back for 9, 10, 11 properties. So people are understanding this. What makes us unique is, one, it's a very low cost of entry. To your friends right now, it's zero, but generally speaking, it's a low cost of entry. You get into the space for $35 or more. Two, this is a virtual piece of land that you will be able to play games on and build on. You can't do that right now in most of the other platforms. You can't do what you want to do. Third is we've got a lot of islands planned. Now, people say, well, you've got islands, you can have more islands. Decentraland and Sandbox have announced that they're not going to do any more land, and I believe one of them has 90,000 pieces of land. We only have, from our first two phases, 14,000 or so plots. Now, there's someone's up to 13, right? So I'm up to 13 plots so far.
Right.
So I have a friend who's an investor in this company who sent me a text saying he owns 192 plots of land. He wants to build a shopping mall.
Just okay, so this thing is like I don't even like I really don't understand. I mean, I don't understand it. I do like listen. I don't use Facebook. I really don't. I don't know how to use Facebook, to be honest. I never figured it out, but I do know people use it and they love it, right? Or maybe they did. But now here's the thing with this digital land. Like again, this is something I don't understand, but I do know that there are guys who are investing, real money. There's millions of dollars. It could be much, but there's guys in individual transactions, 6-7 figure transactions buying this digital land, and this is just one small aspect.
Yeah.
Your metaverse.
I agree. It's one piece of what we do because it all fits together. Digital identity fits into avatars. Avatars fit into about one this morning. Avatars fit into the metaverse. You can't have one without the other. This is a sort of a double stuff Oreo, or it's a triple coated M&M. You got to have digital identity at the center. You have an avatar around that, and then you have the metaverse. And we're at that point now. Technology isn't there yet to do full VR AR, but we're starting to plan out where we're going. We're working with other organizations that are ahead of us to start doing code sharing. We're talking to brands who want to get into the metaverse. So this is very, very exciting.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think I think I'm finally starting to kind of understand where you were like a year ago, the stuff that you're talking about a year ago, because you're like way ahead of the whole thing. Okay, so what you're doing with this digital identity for the metaverse now. Okay, so basically the metaverse now it's not just the Facebook thing, but it's like there's a whole bunch of different metaverses, and essentially now the liquid the avatars that you're creating, people are going to be able to use those in. That's going to be their identity in any metaverse, in any of these?
Well, the answer is, as long as they're compatible, the answer is yes. Okay. We're working with other parties that are doing that. But there's lots of different theories on where things are going. And I think there's going to be we're already working with formats that are compatible with other platforms. So at the end of the day, but at your core, you're going to have your digital identity. And if it, one of the science fiction terms is a sleeve. If it fits in my metaverse, it fits into this type of avatar. In another metaverse, it might fit into an alien avatar. In another metaverse, it might be a fish avatar. I mean, I'm just guessing. So the idea is at the core, your digital identity will fit into a sleeve or an avatar. But there's so much happening in the digital identity space that we don't even get a chance to talk about, and where we're going there separate and apart. But we are very focused in digital identity, avatars, and the metaverse. The metaverse is taking off like a rocket, and we're benefiting from that. And there's been many companies that have benefited from a product that was not initially core, but ancillary to their business, and it helped drive their entire business. So we're very excited about what we're doing in Aftermath Islands, and you're going to see a lot of opportunity expansion there. And I want to also mention that we have added a new automated delivery system. So we were getting inundated with orders, and orders were unfortunately backing up. But as of this morning, we're less than 2 hours behind in delivery. We offer a 3 to 7 day delivery program, and we're at about 2 hours right now.
Hang on a second. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. Okay, aftermathislands.com, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Oh, let me just, here we go. Let me just create a little banner here. This is, so we're technically in the meta. No, we're not. Are we in the metaverse? A little bit.
Well, we're in the internet, but I think we'll be broadcasting from the metaverse within 18 months. We're hoping to have the Wall Street Reporter in the metaverse.
We're gonna get the land. Dave. By the way, just my thesis. When you first came on our platform a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. So my thesis was this, and because again, look, you've had some major kind of winners. You had a stock that went 30x, and you were. You're kind of like a pioneering guy. And I said this to the audience. I said this, hey, my investment thesis is this. Look, this is a guy that's been really early in major, kind of market trends, whether it was like e-commerce, or there are other things. And so my thesis is, okay, this is kind of like that, I hope you're not going to be offended, but like the crazy uncle that this is the guy that the next thing he gets, this is going to be the thing that's going to be the 100 bagger. So I think this is my thesis. Okay, this is the thing. This could be.
I am Michael Keaton in the movie Night Shift. You just got to look at that. So I am. Don't worry. I don't mind being the crazy uncle.
So this whole metaverse thing, when you're like, you were talking about digital identity last year, right? I had no idea what you're talking about. Like, it's like what I get. It's a concept, like whatever. But again, like, look, there's a lot of companies. Like, I understand market trends, market concepts. Doesn't mean I have to use the product. Like, look, we have companies that are in the psychedelic space, the cannabis space, I don't use those products. I don't use, feminine hygiene products, but I understand there's a market for it, right? So I understand there's a market for this thing. And we're actually seeing right now, like, crazy stuff happening with this digital land. Again, last time you were on, I talked about a guy who's like, one of these social media guys is spending millions of dollars buying digital land. So I think that basically this is Liquid Avatar. This is kind of the investment thesis here. This has that 100x upside potential, because this is really, I think this metaverse thing really is the next big thing, the next big market theme for 2022. What else?
Well, we look at it this way.
Aftermath Islands. Liquid Avatar is the only.
I agree. We're a pure play in this space because we're really focused on that. How do you get the metaverse up and running, and how do you get people into the metaverse? Because it's not just, oh, I bought a plot of land, great, I got a plot of land, let me play a game. How do I get my digital identity so I can how do you get the free property?
I think he saw. Okay, so it's use this.
The code is WSR, Wall Street Reporter, WSR 2021, and you go to aftermathislands.com, pick an island, and you get a $55 coupon by typing that in at checkout. Pick your plot, and you can get up to $55 free. So just follow the bouncing ball. You'll create a Wax wallet. And by the way, we partnered with Mascot and the Wax platform, which is now number 2. I think Amazon or someone made a major investment in them. And we were early in this, so we're seeing where things are going, and we're hitting it early.
By the way, this is I got to emphasize this for anybody watching. Look, here's the thing: in the microcap space, there's always companies. You see them. There's a trend that all of a sudden everybody jumps on top of this trend. This is not the case here. You were actually doing this a year ago, maybe even earlier, and the market has caught up to you. It's not like this is not.
And we have a 2022 item I'm not going to speak about yet, but the 2022 item that we're adding to our repertoire is something that will be an absolute game changer, we believe, in communication and payment and other solutions, which fits right into where we're going. So we're now gone from multiple products to adding hopefully one product in a cycle. And again, so there's all kinds of great things. I mean, we're running a promotion right now, Jack, where if you own a property in one of our 2 islands that is dinosaur or dragon related, you get a free dragon egg, and everybody gets this. But we're also running a promotion that if you buy new land, if you're a new purchaser, and again, if we do something on a particular island, I've said this last time I was here, people who own plots on that island will get something. But if we run a new promotion, you only get that new promotion if you participate in it. So we have a promotion right now. If you buy $200 worth of land before any discounts or any taxes or anything else like that, you could use your $55 coupon. You get a free gingerbread house, which is playable for the holidays. So you will next year be able to live in the gingerbread house. Like, these are all the fun things that we're doing. So we're making this fun, serious, and engaging. Our avatar product, MetaHero project, will launch we're saying January, but it might be a bit later because we're so inundated with Aftermath right now in our digital identity products. But that's going to be a game changer avatar. I mean, we're in my humble opinion, we're in multi-billion-dollar businesses now. Gartner, and we all know who Gartner is. Gartner put out a report called Emerging Technologies in Digital Identity, and they listed about a dozen companies, and we were one of the companies that they listed.
You're kidding me?
There are more. Gartner, yeah, Liquid Avatar, yep, for digital identity. We were positioned. It was Liquid Avatar, and it was alphabetical, so it was very, very great. But it was Liquid Avatar, then MasterCard, than Microsoft.
You're kidding.
We're on the radar. So again, I've been here before. We've been here before.
David, why do you put this is good? This is a good product. I mean, this is a major.
Well, because Gartner doesn't really allow you there's a little bit of restriction. We'll get to that. We'll talk about it more and more. But at the end of the day,
it's a big deal. That's a major valid because Gartner is like it's a blue chip.
Gartner is Gartner. We all know who they are. So now we were one of the listed companies. There's many more that they didn't list, but the two that we're looking at the competitive landscape, and we're really well known.
David, getting back to the internet, what happened in let's say in 1996. Back then there was only a handful of internet companies. I mean, really, they're like whatever. And anybody who got onto that list, it wasn't Gartner, it was another research company. But anybody who got onto that list, those companies became billion-dollar valuations. I mean, so the perception is extremely important for the market. Now,
I agree. And look at when we look at digital identity, I think 2022 is a very big breakout year for us. We're already doing work with the Ontario Convenience Store Association. We've just been invited into some global programs. We're on the ground in a country right now, literally on the ground, proving digital identity in a sovereign nation. There's lots going on in each part of our businesses. As I said, digital identity, avatars, and metaverse, they're all multi-billion-dollar businesses, and we are solid, I believe, in each one of those, which means we've got great opportunity. Now, what's really unique is Liquid Avatar is a public company which holds those assets, but each one of those assets individually could be a multi-billion-dollar asset.
Okay, so here's the thing also. Okay, so we can talk about all the stuff is great, but the reality is, okay, so you have these numbers that came out last week. You put out this, it's like an interim report. So it's not, I guess it's not really official.
It wasn't for distribution in the US. So,
okay, so it's not, it's like, okay, so it's like really, it's a weird, like Canadian, I don't even know.
Yeah, and I understand the rules between the two of them, but the fact is.
Can we talk about the? Okay, so basically
a little bit, but again, it wasn't a guidance report, so we have to be careful.
Okay. So from what I understand, you did in this digital, you did this
in this quarter as a corporation. We've already done over 700,000 Canadian in gross sales, and that number is continuing to rise.
And that's between the period of October to early December. So that's like October, November. That's like 2 months, 2 months roughly.
Yeah, just over 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a huge thing for this, in this brand new thing. I mean, like, so this is again, last year basically you were in the concept stage. Now you're in the revenue stage.
Well, we told the market as of October 1 we would start to create revenue. That's what we said, and it It came out a little bit slower than we would have liked in the quarter, but we are creating revenue. And there are companies out there in our space that are generating a couple $100,000 a year and have several hundred million in market cap. Now, we're still relatively new to the markets. It's only been about 18 months. But at the end of the day, we're focused on this long-term approach to business, a long-term approach to our assets. And again, the cool part about our business is we're starting to see partnership and opportunities to grow that revenue, what we hope is exponentially.
Okay, yeah, but this is substantial validation because these are it's hard, that first look in any business. I don't care what business it is, but that getting to that first couple $100,000 in revenues is difficult, and you've done it in a period of 2 months. Is just like, and this is like in this new.
Well, our goal is to get to the first $1 million by the end of the quarter.
Okay, so and then so this is big. I mean, the numbers are really growing fast. So the question is, do you think? I mean, can you do? I don't know. I mean, like at this rate, can you do 10 million next year? I mean, that would be a big number.
I think that's a possibility. Think of it this way, Jack. It's if anybody who's a parent out there will know the book. If you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk. If you give him a glass of milk, he'll want a bedtime story. Right? It's a progression. So if you buy a piece of land, you're going to want to buy a house. If you buy a house, you're going to want to buy furniture. If you buy furniture, you're going to want to build a farm. If you want to build a farm, you're going to want to build a game, and so on and so on. So we're the core team behind Liquid Avatar. Well, many of us have been gamers for many years. As you know, I'm a big comic book enthusiast. which means people have to look out for phase 3, because I'm so freaking excited about phase 3. But and phase 2 is in the market now. But at the end of the day, what's happened is we believe that people, because they're buying multiple plots and parcel, as we saw one of our friends said he's bought 13, or I don't know if it's a he, but I'm just making a presumption. He bought 13 plots of land. I mean, people are cut there. I'm up to third. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, I saw that, but is
Spliff 1 ounce? I guess.
1 ounce. Okay, I know what that means, and okay. But I don't partake, but I know what it means. At the end of the day, what we're seeing is if you give a mouse a cookie, if we can bring out great product that are fun. Again, we're not yet limiting the total number of parcels or plot. We're limiting them by islands, and we're nowhere near Decentraland or Sandbox. So for those that think that we're just going to print islands, we do have a game plan. Well, that's very nice what Jay just said. That's really, really nice. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Do you know this guy? Is he on commission here or no?
This is I know he's not on commission, but I do know he's a large landowner. I do know he's a large landowner. He's
okay. He owns the virtual land. He owns the virtual land.
He owns virtual land. Jay sometimes reaches out to us, and that was a very nice comment. But at the end of the day, and we're looking at government properties to join us. We're looking at educational properties to join us. We're doing all kinds of really crazy things and cool things. So people are thinking, okay, well, our theme islands are selling, our estate islands are selling, and our community islands are selling the slowest. But we've got major plans for community islands. Like, everything has a plan. This is like a simple line from The Hunt for Red October. If anybody knows that movie with
this guy's like a land baron. He's got 200 plots. He's a land baron.
There he is. There he is. Jay's got over 200 plots. He is a land baron. Yeah. Jay likes cookies if you give a mouse a cookie, right? So we're seeing that. So Jack, this isn't a one-trick pony. And if you have land, you'll want an avatar. And if you want an avatar, you'll want digital identity. So this is an interconnected solution. And at the end of the day, what we're looking to do is we want to keep it very economical for people to get involved. It is so important.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So right now you did like the 700 grand just in a period of, I don't know, 2 months. So I would say, I mean, I don't want to extrapolate whatever, but let's say, I mean, that basically comes out to, 5 million a year annualized revenues, more or less. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, which is a lot. I mean, by the way,
to go from zero to $1 million is one of the hardest things. Everybody who's an armchair investor or quarterback, and I don't mean to be rude to anyone, thinks it's easy.
Yeah,
right? It's sort of like I could, what does Aaron Rodgers do? I could do that. I could, the whole idea is sit in the seat and try and get it done when you're also trying to affect all the other programs that are going on.
Now, especially this is in a crazy new thing. This is not like you're selling, vacuum cleaners door to door. This is like a brand new thing, which is like, everybody understands what a vacuum cleaner is or what our car, but this digital land thing, I mean, I think it's a major milestone to do.
I agree. This has been so undervalued in what we've accomplished. Again, Infinite World is going public with $1 million of revenue at a $700 million value.
We're Infinite World. What is that?
Infinite World. I know the guys at Infinite World. Yeah, so they're just a SPAC, but it's through a SPAC. But TechCrunch reported yesterday. So
they're doing what? So they're doing digital land.
They're gonna build metaverse.
So there you go. So in theory, so here's what I think. I think if you're doing 5 million annualized right now, more on that, the stock, because it's a crazy new thing. I mean, it's very easy. Again, like this is going to set, I think it's very easy for something like this to be trading at like 50 times the revenues, because you're not going to be at 5 million, but in 6 months, you might be at 25 million run rate. And the market
Jack, I can't argue with you. I look at the numbers and the fact is,
how many shares outstanding? How many shares?
Approximately 140 million and fully diluted 200 million. And I also want to quash some other fears that have recently been addressed. And I mean, we look at the boards, but of course we don't comment on them. Management and insiders are on a national instrument release, which means we get some of our original stock every 6 months. we are in a blackout period, and we are not interested. I personally am not interested in selling at this level. This doesn't move the needle for me in my long-term game. I want to see our stock significantly higher before. Now, when my blackout ends, I would like to come into the market and buy. So that's very important. I want to go in and buy. But again, it's very difficult because of all the things we're doing and all the projects we're involved in. I will tell everyone that management and insiders are blacked out both from buying and selling about 90% of the time. Okay, so it's really hard. So our goal is to build this value as fast as possible because we're already seeing great opportunities. I mean, think about Aftermath Islands in another vein for just a second, Jack. We're going to have an in-game currency. That currency will likely be a blockchain-based currency. So we are already seeing opportunities to create a tokenized utility out of Aftermath Islands, which could have an explosive value. Could. So, and we own a very large chunk of that asset. So at the end of the day, we're seeing all kinds of unique opportunities, not just revenue recognition, but also think about it this way. We were granted in our deal 150 islands. That's approximately net of all utility properties and any other, about 500,000 plots of land at a current valuation of an average plot of land, which we won't book because our methodology is we don't book until it's sold. That's just $12 million worth of land right now just for ourselves. Like, we're in really great shape. You know, we're really starting to move the needle, and we're so excited about what we're doing on all fronts: digital identity, avatars, and the metaverse.
No, I gotta say, David, this really it's interesting. This kind of really reminds me of, like, the .com stocks in
I
like
agree.
1996, when there was only like, I actually remember the first internet company that went public. It wasn't like Nets. It was a penny stock deal. It was like a $5 million IPO. It was called, I forgot the name of it, but it was. But the thing is,
they were all small. Well, I did an RTO then of a JCP, which doesn't even exist, out of the Alberta Stock Exchange back in '97. We did it for a $12 million valuation, and we merged with another company 3 years later at a $250 million valuation. So
the same thing with these NFTs, digital land. It's kind of, I mean, I think we're going to see values in this from metaverse stuff just go crazy. And the fact that you actually, in revenues now, you're generating like essentially $5 million annualized and growing is, I don't know of any other company. I think the stock right now, I mean, the reality is this is a stock that could be trading at $5 a share very, very soon. Because that
agreed.
Agreed. I mean, if you got to, let's say, 10, 20 million revenues, which, I mean, if you've gotten to a million basic, let's call it a million, just for easy. If you've gotten to a million just that fast, to get to 10 million is not going to take as long. I mean, it's the first million is the hard part.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're tracking every. Again, when I started my career, I started in retail marketing, and that's how I moved into the internet. And we've had lightning bolts. We've had lightning bolts in our career with Disney launching that little song called "Let It Go," which was an Academy Award winner and a Grammy Award winner for Disney. We did the Flash event, helping them with the original Avengers movie, helping launch PVA. We've done a lot of major programs. I've done K-pop events with MTV that they thought they'd have, 5,000 people. We built a server system for them for 50,000, and by the time we finished advertising, they had 5 million people show up. So we've seen this happen. This is not something that we haven't seen before, but we're taking it very, very, very carefully, and we're moving. We want to see the analytics drive the business. We want to know that we're making people happy, we're giving them opportunities, and they're moving forward.
I got to tell you something. The fact that, again, it's like, listen, there's the fact is that, Liquid Avatar not only is really the only pure play metaverse stock, But on top of that, you layer that you actually have revenues that are growing. Like, you know, it's a huge thing. I mean, I think the big milestone. Okay, let's talk about next year, because this is, I guess, I got off track because you know the idea that you have.
So do I.
Revenues, I wasn't expecting the revenues. That's like a big thing.
Well, no one was expecting the revenue. That was the whole point. We did 4,000 in the quarter before, and I went to both our U.S. and our Canadian counsel and said, guys, we've got to tell people about this. And they said, well, the U.S. rules are such and the Canadian rules are such, and we've been very careful because you know, we don't want to give people the impression that there are costs against us, and we've got to put money aside for our build. But you know, margins I think are pretty heavy. But yeah, and now that so the Pandora's box is open for revenue, our goal is, do we hit the you know, we have an ambitious goal of trying to cross, you know, the $1 million revenue mark this quarter, and we're working diligently to do that.
Okay, so for 2022, this is, which is, you know, around the corner, 2 weeks away. What are your goals? Let's talk about, like, let's go through, like, look, the avatars, land sales. Like, what are the big goals?
So digital identity is going to continue to permeate. We're seeing governments on many levels get into digital identity. I was on the call this morning in the UK and Europe talking about age of consent and verification of age in that region. So and travel, which is, you know, politely a cluster right now. It's again because Omicron. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities in digital landscapes. Again, the example I use is you couldn't go into Best Buy and just verbally give them all your information. Why should you be able to do that online? So digital identity will be a big opportunity for us. With digital identity, there is this hidden gem that we're working on. Think of it. We're all sort of innately saying to each other, well, we have our phone number for life, right? And that's how people get a hold of us. Well, what if I said, you, instead of your phone number, your digital identity becomes an identifier that you could use to communicate with everyone? That's something to put in your bonnet for next year, because that is you know, 20 atomic bombs going off at the same time. It's big. So that's that communication related to digital identity is a big opportunity, which we are currently investigating. Avatars. We know avatars are going to be massive because everybody's going to want one. We've got sports agencies talking to us. We've got celebrities talking to us about getting customized avatars that they can have. And our avatars are affordable to very exclusive. So that's avatar business. And then the metaverse. Our goal is to continue to expand our opportunities in the metaverse, get to a build stage where we can start piloting programs in 2022. I'm privy to white papers that are coming out by people for some of the biggest people in the gaming industry who are talking about metaverse activities for 2024 already. We're talking 2022. So our goal is to start and continue to deliver on our mandate. And as so kindly, I think it was Jay who said, we promised in 2022, 2021, we've met those promises. I cannot go back and say to anyone that we didn't meet any of the promises that we made in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you something. It's very exciting to see that, again, you've had this number that came out, which nobody was expecting. And now, you know, I think one of the big milestones is going to be, you know, when you can get to, you know, if you can show, I don't know, 2 million in a quarter, that's going to be a game changer.
Well, we just did 700,000. Don't push it. Yeah, I think you yourself said if we can do a couple 100,000, we've gone to 7 figures. Our goal would be, certainly our goal is to double that as fast as possible. But again, I caution everyone who's out there is to think about what it takes when you're sitting in this seat to do that. But I do agree. We'd love to go from 0 to 1 million a quarter to 2 million, honestly, to 5 million a quarter or 10 million a quarter. I mean, we don't see any end to this.
So Google, you know, Google didn't make their first million for quite a while, and exactly. it wasn't that easy to get to. No. So the fact that, again, in going back to the .com era, you know, back then companies, they weren't making, you know, the type of revenues you're generating now. It took them quite a while, but the multiples, the market was willing to pay huge numbers. So I think I think at some point, so from an investor's perspective, the way I would look at it is this. I mean, the kind of the investment thesis is that, look, the metaverse is going to be one of the big themes of, next year or beyond. And, people are going to be looking for pure plays that are actually, and if somebody is actually generating revenues and the stock is still, it's not $100 stock, like, or 200, and it's like a 50-cent stock or a dollar stock, there's going to be an upside for 10x. So I could see easily the, Liquid Avatar becoming, potentially our next, not even 10 bagger, but again, David, we've already had a 50 bagger. What we have not had yet in the last few years is a 100 bagger. So you could be, and you have.
I look at I topped out. I think I can never remember. It's 34 or 33, 34 or 43. Sorry, times. So I'd like to hit 50 to 100. I mean, that's what I would like. That's my. That is a personal preference. Again, you can't take that as a promise or speculation. Everybody must do their own due diligence. But we're here to make this work for ourselves and our stakeholders. And I say that in that order, but actually the order is in reverse. Because of the way that the markets work and insiders and management work, the shareholders get the benefit first. So if we can build it for shareholders, we can build it for ourselves.
No, well said. But 100x from here is only like $15. It's not a big number. US $15. I mean, what is Facebook? I don't even know what Facebook is. What, a couple hundred or something, or these others? So
we're not talking. But again, it's.
I've seen this happen. Like in these new industries, which especially something which is highly scalable. Like you're in the digital world. It's not like you're making physical products. I mean, you can scale like crazy, right? I mean,
I was talking to someone yesterday. I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone yesterday about an energy drink, and I said, you know what? We could sell energy drinks in the metaverse. The avatar, so now you sell the energy drink in a store in the metaverse. The avatar takes the energy drink, drinks the drink, and gets a boost. So they have increased stamina, increased energy, increased powers, whatever the case may be. They get to go play their game. But at that moment that avatar got that drink, the owner of that avatar was sent a coupon to their Liquid Avatar wallet that said, walk into quote unquote corner store and get 2 drinks for the price of 1.
There's a lot of marketing angles here. It's amazing. Like right now, I understand. I was talking to a guy, like, I don't know if I just there's brands, like real world brands that are selling clothing for.
We're starting to work on that now for the avatars. We're talking again. We're already there. Think of it this way, Jack. Take the drink, but I'll take you one step further. Your avatar buys a sandwich. Again, he consumes the sandwich, gets a power up. Yeah, but at the same time, Uber Eats or DoorDash is delivering that sandwich to your house so you can have it. I was telling someone in the sports industry yesterday,
Am I talking too much?
Am I talking too much? I don't know.
That's my thing. No. So the key is it's like you're basically in the blockchain world, right? I mean, look what happened with Dogecoin, right? Or you have these coins
Doge, yeah.
1,000%, not even 1,000 times. Like Doge went up, I think 1,000, like from 0.00. I mean,
there is so much opportunity, whether it's our stock, whether we bring out a token for Aftermath Islands, whether it's, again, we cannot talk. We're not a securities firm. So in terms of issue, we're issuing a utility. Our game land is utility based. Our tokens would be utility based, but there is a value proposition to be associated with everything.
One question, just wanted to, okay, so basically the digital land, right, which, by the way, people can get for free right now if they go to this link over here.
Aftermathislands.com, and they
plot of land,
right.
Free plot of land in the new world. Remember
and I think it ends tonight, so do that as soon as possible. In the future, will I be able to sell this virtual plot of land for cash? Okay, so let me explain that. So the deed for that virtual piece of land is an NFT. We cannot comment on what you'd be able to do it, but Atomic Hub is a place that you can sell wax NFTs. What's really unique about our platform is in most metaverses, you only can buy that land with crypto. You can use PayPal to buy land in our platform. So, because it's connected to Shopify. So we've done some very, very unique things to bring real people into this program.
No, it's great. Again, and if you have all these, you're basically at that intersection of, the blockchain, crypto, NFTs. So everything is really aligned for this to be like, a 100-bagger stock. I'm not saying it's going to go there, but it could happen.
No, and we're running. So if this is not theoretical, we're actually deploying digital identity. We've got our avatars that are in pilot program now, and our metaverse land is selling. So people can say positive and not so positive things that they want, but at the end of the day, yeah. And I mean, look at RTFKT. I mean, Nike bought them. Go in, buy a pair of kicks from Nike, and then get your digital shoes, or buy your digital shoes and get the shoes delivered to you. There's so many opportunities here.
Okay, David, listen, we're out of time. We're like,
no problem, Jack.
We're going to catch up with you in a few weeks, like in the new year, in January. And I hope you're going to have some massive news then, because I think 2022 is the year of the metaverse. This is going to be the big thing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's the year of Elon Musk, and hopefully Elon Musk is the year of the metaverse.
Exactly. And this is it. Okay, David, thank you. Happy New Year. We'll see you.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays to everyone out there, and enjoy. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, let's get ready for Organic Garage, not in the metaverse, in the real world here. Let's see here. Let me just pull this up. Let me get this. Okay, stand by. Meanwhile, you can use this code to get your free land. Stand by. I'm going to bring up our guest in just a second. Matt.
Jack, how you doing?
Fantastic. Hang on, let me just get things set up on the screen for us. Let me make sure this is working. Okay, I got you up here, and let me just do one more. And we got to get our special guest.
Oh man, special guest.
Okay. We got Yossi, we got Matt. Okay, guys, welcome.
Jack,
let me just get everything set up here, and I'll do a quick intro, and then we will begin. Hang on 1 second. Okay, technological. Okay. Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, December 16th, 2021. We are back with Organic Garage, OGGFF, a stock we believe could be our next 10x to 100x super stock. Again, for anybody that's brand new to our program, our goal is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x potential. These companies have three common things. One, they're going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. Two, they are at a key inflection point. And three, there are multiple catalysts in place right now which could ignite that massive increase in shareholder value. So with that said, Matt, welcome back.
Jack, good to be here. Thanks for having us.
And Yossi, who's the strategic marketing advisor, welcome back.
Hey, Jack, good to see you again.
Same here, guys. Now, here's the thing. So this week, you came out with, is it your fourth SKU? This is the truffle butter?
Yeah.
SKU number 4.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, like I was just on, we had an earlier guest, we're talking about metaverse, one of the big themes for 22. Plant-based foods is a massive investment theme that started, I think, it's been going for over a year now. We've seen some major wins in that space. We're starting to see, Beyond Meat, Oatly, Tattooed Chef. Those are the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange NASDAQ stocks. We've seen a bunch of Canadian companies do very well in the space. And this is a massive trend that is really just in the early stages. And I think maybe Yossi, you have a lot more experience in the food space, and you've been this, so maybe you can add some color and commentary on what I have to say. But what do you see happening in this, the plant-based food space, and why, like, what do you see as the opportunity for Organic Garage? Like, what, because I know you've had some massive winners in the consumer space in the past.
Sure. Well, I mean, plant-based is certainly an amazing trend going on right now all over the world, actually. The U.S. plant-based butter market is up 30%, 36% actually, in a year. The cheese, plant-based cheese, up like 42%. Plant-based yogurt is up 20% year on year. Plant-based is growing much faster, obviously, than regular grocery items. And a perspective, one of the places I worked for quite a number of years was with Groupe Danone. Danone, the yogurt company in the United States. Groupe Danone has a goal of doing 5 billion euro in plant-based products by 2025.
5 billion euro.
5 billion euros, excuse me, 5 billion euros of plant-based products by 2025.
That's like six billion
US. 6 billion US, 6.5 billion US.
Basically, that's in 3 years.
Correct.
And this is a mainstream company. This is not like a bunch of hippies. These are like corporate guys.
Very mainstream company. They actually bought a company called White Wave in 2017 for $12 billion.
And what was White? I never heard of White Wave. What did they do?
So White Wave makes silk. They make silk with the coconut.
Oh, okay.
Milk.
That's the what is it called? Silk. What is it?
They do coconut milk. They do oat milk. They do soy milk. They do
milk,
yogurt. They do cheese. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So they do a lot of the coffee creamers, but they're all much of which is non-dairy.
Non-dairy,
right?
yeah.
So just to show you how interested they are in this non-dairy plant-based category, even a few years ago when plant-based wasn't in such a big trend, they bought it for $12.5 billion. And in February, just this year, they bought a company called Earth Island, or Follow Your Heart, I think it's also called, which is also a very nice, they didn't disclose exactly how much the purchase was for. They're a plant-based company, and they're very interested in that. So I think it just demonstrates a very mainstream company like Groupe Danone is doing this. And so therefore it's a big deal if they're the ones looking at it. If you look, as you mentioned earlier, beef, which is plant-based, is of course Impossible Foods and Beyond Beef. These are growing dramatically. I mean, absolutely dramatically. I think sort of the next frontier is going to be this whole world of plant-based dairy, which it seems pretty clear. And of course, Future of Cheese is really at the cutting edge of all that. And since they're a smaller company, as you know, many of the companies you talk to, they're small companies, they're a lot more nimble. Many of the large companies just can't do that. So today, certainly in the United States, the trend is not only in plant-based, but in a lot of different products. The big companies, rather than try to develop this themselves, which take a long time for them to do, and they oftentimes step all over their own 2 feet, they look for successful companies out there in the marketplace to buy those up and then bring those into their portfolio to really grow the business that way, as opposed to trying to do it themselves.
Okay. In the transaction, the valuations in that space, I mean, the multiples, multiples of revenues, I mean, they're pretty substantial, no? Like in what people are paying for plant-based right now, or what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's again, the companies are buying the big companies are buying smaller companies, less about what their current valuation is in terms of profits and a multiple of that. But they're looking at some of these companies and saying, gosh, they can sort of break that out and build a lot more revenue around that. That has a very large future value. So the company doesn't have to be, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? A company could be 20, 30, 40, $50 million. And so large companies see a need to that, whether it's in plant-based, whether it's in baked goods, whether it's in non-GMO. A lot of those categories are being looked at for the future opportunity, not so much for what they're doing now.
Okay, so in other words, in theory, let's say a company that's doing 25 million in revenues, and I'll ask one of the questions is, okay, what's the at what point does something become interesting for a big player? Again, not that I don't want to maybe go off on a tangent. We're not saying that Future of Cheese or Organic Garage. Business is not for sale. I don't know. This is probably a discussion for way down the road. But in terms of for investors to understand what is the current value, what is this business worth now, I think that's interesting because right now the market is valuing this whole business at like $25 million, and that includes 4 grocery stores which are doing like 30 million revenues. You got this plant-based business which is just starting, and you got 4 products. You're going to have, I think, 8 products. So I think it's important for investors to understand, like, hey, what is the upside here? Because basically you're getting this thing essentially for free right now. In other words, like the valuation of this thing is like ridiculously cheap. Okay, so what I want to ask you is, again, organic or future of cheese. You start off 6 weeks ago. You had, or maybe 8 weeks ago, you had zero plant-based products. Today you have 4 SKUs. You have 4. You got how many lines of butter? You got the
salted, unsalted. We have the plant-based brie, and then, like I said, their most recent announcement is the plant-based butter, truffle-infused butter.
Okay, so the next question. Okay, so Yossi, your business, in case anybody doesn't remember you from the first interview, is your background is essentially you help brands scale. Tell us about kind of your background, and then we'll get into what you're doing with the future of cheese and butter.
Sure, absolutely. I come from the consumer products world. I work with a lot of other companies as well, not necessarily consumer products. But my real background is in the consumer packaged goods and food. I worked at about 14, 15 years at Kraft, the big food company, large food company, both in the US as well as Canada. I was an executive and chief marketing officer for Dannon, the yogurt company, both in the United States as well as some of their European companies in the UK. I invented what's called the kids yogurt category today, which is yogurt made especially for kids. A number of products we did at Dannon. And then I've done over the last 10, 15 years, a lot of consulting for many, many different companies, not only in dairy, but in a lot of other areas as well. A little bit about my background.
Okay, and I think you've taken some brands, some niche brands, kind of in plant-based, organic, whatever you want to call it. I think you worked with like a yogurt brand or something, like an Australian brand, which you really were able to help scale up and became a massive win. You would give us a quick snapshot of that?
Yeah, sure. You got a very good memory. But I worked a number of years ago with a brand called Noosa, which is a yogurt brand in the United States. It's an Australian-based yogurt. At that time, Greek was very, very big in the United States. This was sort of a little bit of coming off the Greek trend. But this product tastes a lot better. Greek is known to be high in protein. Doesn't necessarily taste that great. There's also Swiss yogurt. There's a lot of different kinds of ethnic.
You're an expert. You're an expert in all these, oddball dairy products. Like this is and just to give some context, this business it's the dairy market, right? Like is $600 billion globally, right? 600 billion plus, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's even, it's absolutely huge.
So this is not like, this is not a small opportunity. There's some huge money made in this. And I think everybody's moving into this, plant-based alternative because, look, a lot of people actually, they don't want to eat, actual dairy, or they can't eat dairy. They can't process it, whatever, so there's, and everybody loves, I think most people love cheese, no? Or butter.
Sure.
Who doesn't love cheese or butter? I mean, that's like.
I mean, almost every, unless you're lactose intolerant, which is where some of these plant-based really plays a phenomenal role. Because if you're lactose intolerant, now all of a sudden you can eat everything. That's a tremendous opportunity.
How many people are lactose intolerant on the planet?
Oh gosh, I don't know exactly number, but I think it's 10% of the population, one way or another.
We're talking about maybe 1 billion plus people. And then, you have, a lot of people, again, they're getting into this whole vegan thing, the plant-based, okay. So it's massive opportunity here. Okay, so Yossi, here's the question I have for you. Basically you were brought in to help get these products, to help, future of cheese, future of butter, scale up, North America, globally, etc. How are we doing on what's the path to get there? I think the last time you said, how many products do you need to have, and what's the path for this, and how are we doing progressing?
Well, I mean, in general, I'll point out another example. The path to success when it comes to new products doesn't necessarily mean you have to start off huge and start off big. It's a big category. You could be a niche player and still be extremely successful. I'll give you an example. When I worked at Dannon, one of the things we did is we developed the first kids yogurt in America, right? At that point in time, yogurt was either fruit on the bottom, where you had to mix it, which was Dannon, or it was Yoplait, which was already pre-mixed for you. There was nothing segmented for anybody special. There was no plant-based. There was nothing for kids. There was nothing for probiotics. All those categories that exist today didn't exist. So the path to success is to take something and first understand what is that people want, to really have a good understanding of what people want. Then you have to adapt it to the taste. So, for example, to tell you what happened in the kids' yogurt, kids liked yogurt till they were about 2 years old, and then it became tart, right? The taste becomes very tart. So a lot of kids said, I don't like that. That's horrible. It doesn't taste good for me. So we had to go to Sweden and look for the right kinds of cultures that weren't tart. We had to have flavors that were oriented towards kids, cherry, grape, which did not exist really in yogurt. We had to develop those. And then you have to start off small. You don't want to run out there and do too much. You want to get the kinks out very, very early on. So analogous to this, of course, is development of these cheese products, especially the non-dairy cheese products or the plant-based products that Future of Cheese makes, really has a few very, very big experts. You have Afram Pristine, who is a maître de fromage, right? He's a global, one of the few global, the only one in Canada, experts on cheese, a real expert on cheese that really knows what he's doing, right? And you had Craig Harding, who is a restaurateur, who has quite a number of restaurants around Toronto. These two worked very hard together, right, to create, to shoot for and to try to come up with the best tasting plant-based cheese products that exist. And now what's really happening, it's going out slowly, at least initially, to try to make sure that everything goes well. You know, the butter, which is the regular and the salted, that sold out, I think, in 24 hours, 48 hours. I mean, incredible. The small run that they made sold out very, very quickly. And now, of course, the product is being rolled into other larger stores and to about 50 smaller cheese shops around Canada. The Brie, which was just launched, has a traditional aging process. You know, again, so it was done properly and created under these people that really know what they're doing in the world of cheese and in the world of food.
Why do you think, Yossi, what, again, from your perspective, you know, dealing with, you know, these major global brands, getting products off the shelves, you know, internationally into big, why are these things important? Like, you know, in terms of like this whole backstory and like all these, like, why, like, is this important? Or I'm like, what, because I think ultimately what the audience wants to know, I mean, bottom line, all they really care about is, okay, what's the path for this thing to be like a, not even a, let's say only 25 million in revenues, which is not a lot. Because if organic, or if this company could do 25 million in revenues in plant-based, just in that, you know, that could be worth, you know, 500 million plus.
Right,
You know,
absolutely.
as a slide, that could be a $10, that could be a, excuse me, that could be a, is that 100? Oh, wait, Matt, I'm bad with it. I lost track of the math.
You're getting into big numbers there, John.
$10 a share, $10 a share. Yeah. So Yossi, what we need to know is, okay, what's, you know, 25 million doesn't seem to be like a big, you know, it's not a huge thing. Like, how close is the company right now to getting to that trajectory? That's what we need. We need to know about the trajectory, because, you know, whether it happens 25 million, you know, in 12 months or in 18 months, it doesn't matter, because, you know, the market is forward looking. You know, the market pays for, you know, where things are going. So how do we get on that on that 25 million trajectory, which to me doesn't seem like it's that difficult, is it?
No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, the butter market in the United States, for example, in plant-based is $275 million just for butter. And to go back to the example I gave before with the kids product, you know, the goal was to try to do $5-10 million in year one, starting off slow and then moving it out. It ended up doing $30 million of kids yogurt in year one. Today, that's a $1.5 billion category alone. Just the kids part of yogurt in the United States is $1.5 billion. So I think if you look at this and you say, well, if the butter market is 275, the plant-based butter market is $275 million, and the U.S. cheese, plant-based cheese market is $270 million, right? You got 500 million right there. If you carve out just a little bit of that, that can be incredible, both with the butter as well as the brie. Another area I think which is very interesting, which I find very intriguing, is the whole food service and restaurant area.
Yeah.
A lot of work being done on that. You think about the rest, people are coming in there, right? The millennials are coming in and saying they want plant-based because it's better for you.
Okay, so beyond meat, right? That's become like on menus. You see it says Beyond Meat. But
exactly.
How come nobody has a cheese on those things? Nobody has a vegan cheese on there, right? So
that's what's happening. I mean, I think a Future of Cheese is going in there and bringing in something that melts and browns and tastes just like real butter, right? Which is something that doesn't really exist in the marketplace. And what that does for restaurants is I think it helps the restaurants build traffic into the restaurants, because the baby boomers are saying, oh my gosh, I'm getting older. I have to be more healthy. I have to be more careful with what I eat. I want plant-based, whether it's meat, whether it's cheese, whether it's other products that I eat. And of course, the millennials want that because that's trendy and it's better for you and so on and so forth. So if you just look at that, even forget about retail for a minute, you just look at food service and restaurant, the opportunity is incredible in of itself. But of course, at retail, which is an important focus here, if you think about the fact that in the US, between butter and cheese is already a $500 million market for plant-based butter and cheese, there's a lot there, a lot to take, and that's growing very fast, 35-40% a year. You don't even have to take market share. All you got to do is take a little bit of that growth of 10% a year, or not 10%, 35-40% a year. That's incredible.
Okay, also, I think actually what you're doing, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think the plant-based butter and cheese, it doesn't really take away, because it's like, I think those people eat, but it adds a whole new market on top of it. No, because like, I think people with butter, if they're eating butter, but the plant-based butter is like it adds a whole new aspect, or am I wrong? What's the?
Well, it certainly is adding quite a bit, because when the market is growing 35-40% a year, you've got a lot of new people coming into the market. You've got a lot of people who are existing customers who are eating more now that they've got other opportunities and other items to eat. So it doesn't necessarily, a lot of businesses, often it's a share play, where the pie is only so big, and you have to carve out a piece of that pie that already exists, take it from somebody else. Here, you don't have to take it from somebody else, because it's already growing at 35% a year.
Okay, so and this, okay, we're going to get into some audience questions. I really want to. Okay, so I guess Anthony's asking a great question. Does Future of Cheese, have plans to expand to milk, yogurt, or other SKUs, other categories, or is it just going to be in cheese?
Yeah, no, the original vision was, and we've mentioned this on a couple of previous programs, is we do see an opportunity to consolidate some smaller plant-based companies into the fold that we have with the Future of Cheese. And for us, it would be looking at those segments like yogurt, milk, meat, that pair well with what we're doing with the Future of Cheese and the Future of Butter, into a broader future of category, future of meat, future of yogurt, future of milk, because we do see that potential. And the good thing is all those categories, are well established from a consumer standpoint. So there's an opportunity with the kind of management team we have in place and kind of the branding that we've established to grab significant market share. So we do definitely see an opportunity with that. Our core business is with Afram's experience and guidance, and Craig's as well, is on the cheese side of the business. But we do see opportunities, and we're always engaging in different conversations with companies that are in the market that we feel would fit well into our fold as we look to expand the business. So tons of potential there.
Yeah, I think it's important for anybody who's brand new watching this for the first time to understand, okay, that the unique thing that you bring to the table, Matt, is that essentially you're running right now a $30 million a year business, 4 stores, a leader in selling organic groceries. So and you're a discounter also. You're not a whole. So basically, you know what sells on shelves, what consumers want in terms of packaging, price, taste. I mean,
we're being pitched products that haven't even hit the market yet, like stuff coming in, mid to late next year, asking us our interest in carrying it. So from a market intel standpoint, we always saw that as an attractive feature that we bring to the table, is that we're able to guide the business in terms of what is coming to market, what are the retail price points, what is the size of the products, what are the ingredients in the products, what are the taste profiles, to bring that market intel that companies don't get until products hit the market, and yet we're seeing it pre-market. So it gives us a unique insight into what's happening in the plant-based space. And I've said it before, we're at the epicenter of the plant-based movement. Plant-based brands and food brands launch in companies like Organic Garage. They're not going to mass retail. They're launching into organic and all natural grocery chains, because it is their largest target market. And so they're looking to attract those sorts of consumers before going to mass. So we're seeing things before, it hits, big chains and things like that. And we're able to provide that guidance and insight, back to the company to help guide them on, modifying and tweaking their business plan as we continue to roll out SKUs.
So bottom line, I guess, okay, so bottom line is, to answer the question here, is you're going to be expanding into other branded, CPG things beyond just the dairy stuff. You can do, you have plans to do other things?
We are always actively looking and in ongoing discussions with numerous companies that we feel might be, find benefit of being grouped together with a company like Future of Cheese, where they can share, like resources, like ingredients, because a lot of these companies use all the same ingredients. There's benefit in grouping these companies together, for scaling up and growth. And we've seen that with the Future of Cheese. And, going back, Jack, I mean, you said it, 6 or 8 weeks ago, there was no products in the market. In 6 or 8 weeks, we've launched 4. And for what we have coming, what we believe in Q1, I think your previous interviewee said it, it's easy for people who are sitting there saying, well, if Aaron Rodgers can throw a touchdown, well, I can throw a touchdown. Well, you know what? It's not so easy, So when you're sitting in this chair, launching products into the market, and Yossi knows this probably way better than I do working for large companies, it takes a lot to launch a product into the market. And so what we've accomplished over the last 8 weeks is nothing short of phenomenal. And what we have coming in the new year, like I mentioned before, we have some key catalysts that we think will be bellwether indicators, to the market in terms of finding and solidifying our co-packer, which will allow us to scale and working to get to that 8 or 10 SKUs. Because I said it before, 8 or 10 SKUs, 1 case per SKU per door in 500 doors, with an average cost to the distributor of $5 a unit, is a $7.8 million a year business. So when you're talking about run rate, and 500 doors is very conservative. We were on this program, Jack, and you said it better than anybody. Oatly is in 65,000 doors across North America. So, we're just talking about 500 doors. What happens if we were in 1,000 doors or 2,000 doors or 4,000 doors? So the investor can choose to scale the model as they see fit, but we give the hard math, which is based off of that. And that is exactly what we're working towards. We've executed on everything we said we've done. We told them that we would be launching SKUs. We've launched 4 SKUs in basically 8 weeks, which is very rapid rollout of SKUs. We said we would be launching into food service. We sent out a great press release with top tier restaurants that are adopting our products and putting it on menu to continue to build the brand. We said we're working towards, a co-packer, which we're very hopeful to announce in Q1. And then, working towards the 8 to 10 SKUs, which we're well on that way with what we have in the pipeline to be ready to launch, not only across, nationwide here in Canada, but definitely into the US market. And I think we've accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. And the marketing kind of exposure we've gotten, we just got a great write-up in Veg News, which is a large publication out of California, which did a profile on the plant-based brie. So I can only tell you that the momentum is building. But Yossi touched on it. Brands are smart, and we took this very cautious approach right from the beginning. We were going to be very direct, very cautious in our rollout, as we continue to tweak and adjust, but continue to grow. And we've done that through the rollout of additional stores and on the food service side. And our goal is in Q1 is to really take the next steps with the business. And I think, from anybody watching our previous interviews, I think we've executed on everything we said we've done. So I think it's a great, accomplishment for the team, of which Yossi's a part of, in terms of what we've accomplished so far.
Okay. So, yeah, definitely. Okay. So there's a couple of things I want to touch on here. So one of the things, Matt, I got to tell you, a lot of companies come onto our platform, and, one of the things I tell every CEO before we get involved, I say, look, the whole thing, the secret to success is you got to have not only just a great story, but you have to be at that inflection point where there is going to be news developments. There's going to be things starting to happen. And in the case of Organic Garage, I mean, you've delivered everything that, you've said. I mean, there's been new products like I don't know, is it every 2 weeks? But basically things that have been launching. You got the real estate thing, the stores, which we're not talking about that today. We'll talk about that later. But the Organic Garage stores are going to be, you're going to be expanding with new locations. So things are definitely happening. And I think the stock started to move. We had a pullback, with the market. You got tax loss selling season, the NASDAQ, a lot of stocks have gotten hit. So essentially people are getting this thing really on sale here. Again, the market cap is like, I don't know, it's 25 million, whatever the number is.
Oh, yeah.
Now
and Jack, I mean, I just want to stress, I mean, Jack, one of your key things is a company at an inflection point. And so when I look at the runway for growth here, and I hope, people who are looking at our story see it the same as I do, is we're right at the start line. And so you're getting in on a rocket ship, basically, for where we want to take this brand and the potential that it has in the market. And so I think for anybody who should be looking at this as one of your key 3 drivers is, as a company at an inflection point, we're there. We are ready and gearing the company up for significant growth. And we have the founders that need to be in place, which Yossi touched on, and I could talk, all about that. But we got the people in place, we have the product, we have the brand. We're putting the core building blocks in place to take some big steps. And in the CPG business, you can take some very, very big steps very quickly. And so we're putting those steps in place, just like we said from interview 1, in terms of what our plan was, and we're working and executing on that. So it's one of those key 3 bedrocks for you, a company at an inflection point, which, I think we definitely are.
Yeah. No, so there's a couple of 3 things that I kind of want to touch on, which I think are key value drivers for the story going forward. And Yossi, please jump in on any of these things. Okay, so you entered the food service space, the restaurant sales. So the possibility of having, basically being the cheese or the butter thing, just like Beyond Meat is on menus right now, which is, I think, could be huge. For example, like, I'm not a plant-based guy, but I notice, like, if I eating like a burrito, it comes with a cheese, like it kind of gives me like a phlegm type of thing, something like I feel like a cough. I don't know what it is, but I think from eating dairy or something. So I would actually do if there was a future of cheese thing, I would go for it, because it's like,
Okay.
I think the cheese that they have, I don't know, Chipotle is not that great, maybe. So if you imagine if you were the cheese at Chipotle and I don't know, McDonald's or whatever, how many of these fast food places are there? I mean, Yossi, you want to touch on like the opportunity there, and what are you doing? Wait, you're the marketing guy. What are you doing to get us into the food service, into the restaurant space?
Well, I think you got to make the restaurants feel that this is something that's going to be good for them, which they know it is. I think restaurants always are looking for opportunities to get products or get something in there that's going to bring more people into the restaurant, right? So today, plant-based is one of those things. If you sort of divide the world sort of between meat and dairy, you've got the Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat. What's really on the dairy side from a branded perspective is not a lot, right? And a lot of what exists today, is not necessarily that great. I mean, you take as an example of Brie. One of the things I think is phenomenal about future of cheese is not only are they coming out with these new products, they're coming out with the products that people want, right? And the products themselves have the aspects to them that people want. So a Brie, actually, even though it's plant-based, is actually aged the same way a Brie would be aged. It's only got 5 ingredients to it. There's no junk or fillers, or the packaging is biodegradable, even. So it's got a lot of the aspects that everybody says they want. They want packaging that's good for the environment. They want it to taste good. They want simple ingredients. They want to know it's coming from people who know what they're doing. This Future of Cheese has all of those.
I think so. So one of the things that has the quality of the product, the store. And again, I would think I think we talked about this, Matt, before. I said, look, Brie is kind of like, look, it's a niche thing. It's probably a way for these guys to show off their skill, like the restaurant was what's the two guys, the cheese guys.
Yeah,
it's a way for them to show, because it's a difficult thing, right? So it's a way for them to show off their skill, and it's kind of a door opener, because anybody who knows anything about cheese, they say, wow, these guys can do this with Brie, whatever. That means they could do incredible things with sliced, whatever it is.
And Jack, to be honest, it exceeded even my expectations. Like we viewed it as that sort of SKU, as a bellwether kind of branding SKU for the brand in terms of cachet in the market and stuff.
Cachet, that's where
but I will tell you, from a sales perspective, and I'm putting my retailer hat on, it exceeded my expectations. I mean, we sold out very quickly because there is a huge market for that premium side cheese that was not well represented in the plant-based space. You look, the big rush, and look, it's not to fault any company, but it wasn't the cheddars and the mozzarellas, all the basics. But the specialty space in cheese is astronomical. And so launching a plant-based brie, people were waiting for it, and so it blew me away. So we could think that, but the reality is, from a sales perspective, we're seeing it is a very strong skew for us. So, it's giving us encouragement on that kind of high-end space. Going back to the launch of the truffle butter, truffle is such a hot trend, truffle oil, things made with truffles. And so it encouraged us with the response to the brie to say, hey, there's a market for this. People want this, like a premium product at a great price on the plant-based side that traditionally they weren't afforded that opportunity, so yeah.
And I think so. I think what was what's his name? The two cheese guys. So, okay, so he's like the expert, the cheese expert. I think I remember the one thing that's the kind of stuck in my head was that when he talked about developing these products, whether it's brie or whatever it is, he's not doing like the goal is not just to create like some like alternative. It's not an alternative, which is like, okay, it's not quite as good as the real thing, but no, it's a product that in its own right is its own, like it stands up directly with, it could be better than the real deal. So that was pretty interesting. Yes, I want to ask you in terms of, so let's say getting into menus of restaurants, part of the story could be that I would assume that anybody who's running a restaurant, they want to hear the story. Okay, this cheese was developed by a guy who's like one of the top world experts in cheese, right? Which he is.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the big differentiating points of these products, a future of cheese versus others, not only does it taste great, not only does it have less ingredients and all of that, but it was actually created by chefs, because they know the business, right? I mean, I think the fact that both Afram, who was the cheese expert, and Craig, who was a restaurant expert, were really the ones behind the development of this, that lends a lot of credibility to the product right out of the get-go. And I think when you go into, let's say someday they may present this to one of the restaurant chains or to some of the big supermarket chains in the United States, that's certainly going to be an important point that differentiates you from anybody else. I mean, hey, look, the global plant-based butter market, is expected to be $1.7 billion, right, by 2026, right? Yeah. So imagine, again, a sliver of that, or one or two big chains, it could easily be a 10, 20, 30, $50 million company pretty fast.
Yeah, Jeff, sorry, I was just going to say on the food service side, just touching on the management team, how rare is it for a co-founder, and I'll speak to Craig's expertise here, who can show a restaurant what to do with the items. Like Craig can craft the recipes of how to utilize the plant-based brie for a restaurant who wants to put it on the menu. Craig worked with one of a food service customer who developed a shortbread cookie with our plant-based butter. So, like that is the sort of level of expertise that we can help provide on the food service side to restaurants who want to get into plant-based, but aren't sure how to utilize the items potentially or how they execute. And here we have a world famous chef who can sometimes, depending on where they're located, go to their facility and show them himself. So, on the food service side, and that's what we saw with the first launch of the restaurants we partnered with, is Craig's involvement in helping, these restaurants showcase the item, pair the item, integrate the item into their menus. So yeah.
And Beyond Meat, they can't do that. I mean, I don't think they have that. That's not their thing. Beyond Meat.
Well, it might not be their purview or their choice.
But butcher guy who's saying, "Hey, this is it doesn't quite work that way." Okay, so the restaurant thing, that could be again a good door opener to get into the retail sales. No, yes. Tell me what. In other words, let's say for example, Future of Cheese, Future of Butter is right now in a bunch of. Could be top restaurants or could be, I don't know, could be chain restaurants. Does that help drive retail, sales at supermarkets?
Potentially it can. First of all, it can create brand recognition in the areas where the restaurants are. Second of all, it can create public relations stories or angles. You know, hey, they're in this restaurant, this famous restaurant. You know, Afram, who is this fromage, maitre de fromage, an expert. He's the one that helped create it. That's a story in of itself. I mean, the whole company, as Matt said, you know, is the story of the restaurateurs who can actually talk to a restaurant and tell them what's wonderful about it. Same token, Matt, who's a retailer, right, who's also part of the, you know, right at the top of the company, he can talk the language of retailers for other retailers, right? Part of the other talent you have here is not only in the food, on the food side of it, to restaurants who could talk to restaurants, but a retailer like Matt, who knows the retail market very, very well, could also lend credibility for other retailers, right?
Okay, so the path again back to the, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the main story, which is the stock, right? I mean, Matt, with all due respect, you know, people want to know about the stock, the cheese, whatever. Yeah, okay, but of course they got to have the business to make the stock work. So, okay, but the path for this to be a $5 stock is really, I mean, the bar is very low. You don't have to do that much. I think if the company can hit a $10 million run rate in the plant-based business. Again, you got 100 million plus a day. Plus, you got, you know, the grocery business, which is, you know, 30 million plus, and that puts you on the road to a $5 plus stock. And if you get to $25 million in revenues, then you're talking about a $10 stock. And 25 million is really, again, in this business, it's not a lot in sales. So, and let's go through the numbers again. You need to be in roughly. I did the math. 2,000 doors.
SKUs.
Yeah,
Well,
10
yeah.
SKUs.
Well,
10
10 SKUs.
2,000
Yeah.
doors.
10 SKUs, 2,000 doors. Yeah, using that math of 10 SKUs, a turn of 1 case per SKU per door. And look, I always remind people, you know, I brought my retail expertise, and our cases are only packed 6 units. You know, so we're not asking, you know, a retailer to turn 24 units in a case or something per week. So just 1 case per SKU per door at a $5 cost to our distributor is a $7.8 million runway. So if you're at 2,000 doors, times that by 4, you know, you're a $25 to $30 million a year company.
Okay, and again, 2,000 doors is like a drop in the bucket in terms of the number of doors there are. Again, because we've talked about Oatly being at 65,000 doors. Okay, so Yossi, how do we get into 2,000 doors in the next 12 months?
Good question. That's where really marketing comes into play. I mean, thinking from a marketing strategy perspective, right? You obviously have to create a lot of brand recognition. Once you move into the United States, you need programs that, you know, PR type of programs, bloggers, and other experts who speak about the brand, who tell people about it, so people then learn that the brand exists. Another big area, of course, is you want to get trial, right? You got to be able to go out there and get people to try it. So far, it's interesting. As soon as it gets in the store, everybody's running to buy it, right? Without any fancy plans yet, right? But I think when you go into a large supermarket chain in the United States, you know, they want to know what you're going to do to help people pull it, what they call pull it out of the stores once people go in if they're familiar with it. So you'll be looking at programs, you know, trial-based type of programs. What kind of incentives? We'll be looking at types of incentives to give people at some kind of a discount the first time they buy it. We'll be looking at sampling, you know, maybe sampling the product, whether it be in marathons, at state fairs in the United States, or in the stores themselves, to be able to give them a sample of the product, maybe with a cracker if it's a piece of cheese.
Okay. So you've done this. I mean, you've done this type of thing before with other brands.
Sure.
Okay, so we can drill down to like so many different areas. How do you get? But I guess what investors want to know is it difficult to get into 2,000? Like, if you have a product, how difficult is it to get into 2,000 doors? And again, you know, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. How difficult is it just to get into 2,000? Is that a big jump, or like, I mean, how can you give us a perspective?
No, it's not really a big jump. I mean, it's nothing is ever easy to do, of course. But you're talking about many of the large supermarket chains in the United States, you know, will have 500 stores or more, right? Some of the big ones, you know, you've got the Publix types of stores, you know, you've got Safeway, you've got Kroger. Many of those stores have more than, you know, have thousands of stores, Walmart, Costco, and so on. You land in 1 or 2 of those big ones, and you get the distribution of 500 or 1,000 stores. You can be doing 2,000 stores pretty quickly. So it's the kind of thing where you have to be able to make sure that the retailer clearly understands what's the point of difference here, what makes this brand better. Many things that we spoke about. Plant-based, of course, is growing. So one of the sound bites, of course, for retailers is the whole category is growing dramatically, 35 to 40% a year. So they're looking for plant-based. Everybody wants plant-based products.
I mean, basically, the groceries, I mean, they're in the business of selling product, right? And Matt, maybe you can speak to this. Is that everybody's looking for a product that's going to, move off the shelf quickly and make them a big margin, no?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And just going back to the marketing of the brand, let's not underestimate the two co-founders, media savvy. I mean, they both, Afram had, I think, an 11-part series on the Food Network where he traveled the world trying and meeting with cheese producers. So Craig Harding was a celebrity chef on the Food Network on some of their programs. Their connections to media, whether it be newspaper or electronic media. I go back to, we just had a write-up on the Brie in Veg News, which is a large California publication that picked up on our press release launch. So when you're talking about generating publicity, you got two spokespeople that, I've said it before, if you were to put a dollar cost to going out and trying to hire them, I don't even want to guess what it would cost the company. So we have them at the forefront to help push the story. And from a retailer perspective, that's what you want. You want founders, co-founders out in the media pushing the brand so that customers are going into stores. And it's, because I've always said as a retailer, our job is to get the product on the shelf, not to figure out how it needs to sell. That's up to the brand. The brand needs to push the story. And so when we're talking about, in this circumstance, we have two co-founders who push the story, as better than anybody.
Okay, so it's interesting. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and it finally clicked. I mean, I'm a little bit slow, perhaps. Is that when you have these brands that are developed by chefs, right? It's like the chef branded thing. Especially if the guy has a reputation as an expert in that product, it does help. Like I remember, and now it's not such a big deal. Maybe I think was it Wolfgang Puck? That was the first guy to do this, right?
I was going to say that Wolfgang put his name on products. And because of his reputation, well, I would say that for what the categories he entered into, we had Wolfgang Buck soups in Canada for a long time. Unfortunately, they're not here anymore. He pulled out of Canada, but his products were here in Canada, and he had a great reputation as one of the highest quality in its category. You're talking about canned soup, so it's not. We're not talking about nobody's expecting to get the best bowl of soup they've ever had. It's a canned soup, but his name and reputation gave consumers confidence to say, you know what, for what it is, I'm going to get a great product at a great price that I can feed to myself and my family, and I'm going to be proud of it. I'm going to say this is a great product. And so when you talk about, Afram's reputation or Craig's reputation, people's confidence in them in terms of what they are saying or showing to the consumer, then they go out and try the product because they trust Afram and Craig's reputation and experience and guidance to say this is going to be a good product. We really think you're going to enjoy it. It gives consumer confidence. And then on the food service side, which we just touched on, it gives confidence when a chef can speak to a chef. Hey, look, this is what you can do with it. You have a pizza, this is how you're going to want to utilize it. You have a cookie you want to do, this is how you're going to want to utilize it. You have a cheese board, this is what you're going to want to do with it. That gives a chef confidence to say, wow, this guy's done it. He knows how to utilize it. I'm going to listen to his guidance, and this is how I'm going to tailor it for my method, type of thing.
Okay, so the big thing is and we'll get into some audience questions. So the scaling up, right? So I think some people have said before that. So they're saying, I'm trying to get to stores, I can't find the cheese, it's selling out. So there are some constraints right now, and which is, I guess, purposeful. I mean, I don't say purposeful, but today your focus is not on having massive scale. Right now, you're getting products out. So the question is, when will you be in a position to scale exactly? Is it next month, 45 days? When are we going to get to that?
No, the key thing is a co-packer, and we've said it from day one. And for investors who have been following the story,
that doesn't know, what is a co-packer?
So co-packer is a manufacturer who manufactures your product for you. They co-pack it for you. And so what it allows a company like us to do is be lean on capital requirements, which is what we've said to our investors all along. We do not want to go out and have to be, raise a ton of capital and build a manufacturing facility and run a facility ourselves. No, we want to leverage somebody else's expertise in manufacturing while we focus on product development and marketing the products and pushing the sales and leverage a manufacturer's ability to scale the product. And so we said it from day one. Our first goal was initially to control manufacturing ourselves. We've done a great job for those people who say, well, I've gone to the stores and I can't find it. Well, guess what? It's selling well. That's a good problem to have. We're happy to have that problem. Yes. Does it cause us to have to adjust? Absolutely. But let's remind everybody, we're 6 or 8 weeks in. These are natural growing pains for a good product that is popular. Yossi knows this better than anybody. It happens. And so the team pivots and adjusts. And look, from a retailer standpoint, same thing. I will just say, for those of you that don't know, retailers, when they list a product, they peg a sell-through quantity. They don't know exactly until they bring it into the stores and it starts selling. And so retailers adjust as well. We adjust our forecasting. We hold more inventory. If it sells out, we adjust again. That's the way it works. It's no mystery there. It's very simple math in terms of how you adjust. But our goal is with the co-packer in Q1 is to get a co-packer that can scale with the growth we anticipate as we want to move the product across Canada and into the US. And so I've said that before, that's a big bellwether indicator for the investor community to say, once we have a co-packer, then we can really rapidly grow. We're not interested in manufacturing ourselves. We're not interested in opening up our own manufacturing facility and investing a ton of capital. Investors should be very happy about that. Let's leverage somebody else's expertise and their abilities and their strengths while we focus on our strengths. And so we'll take it to a certain level, which we're there and doing that, and we can continue to scale up a little bit more. But our focus was always finding a quality co-packer, and our goal is in Q1 to solidify that, lock that down, and then the sky's the limit.
Okay, so Q1, that's a very broad thing. We're talking about January, we're talking about March. When in Q1 can we expect this co-packer deal?
I don't want to say specific because things can happen. It takes time to negotiate and to find the right company that gives us the growth that a capacity that we want to have. Because I've seen it before with brands where they'll get a co-packer who could not meet what their end goals are, and then they run into constraints, and then they have to find another co-packer, and then that can lead to delays in growth. We want to find somebody who can meet what we anticipate our expectations are as we grow the business. And so we'll spend that time now rather than revisiting it in the future, which is not the time you want to be doing it when your brand is on fire.
Okay, so I think it's good that investors know that because the value that you're bringing here from your kind of experience in running retail, selling products on shelves, selling thousands of products is apparently I'm sure there's a lot of companies, plant-based companies right now that are public that have run into this issue where they may have they're not making it themselves. They have a co-packer and they're not able to scale, or some issues, whatever. So essentially, so exactly what's required to get you the type of scale that you need, right?
Yeah, we have a co-packer. It is a critical piece to our growth story because we want to be prudent with our capital. And, we do not want to go out there and have to raise capital to open up a manufacturing facility. We've said we run a very tight cap table on the public markets, with just under 60 million shares outstanding. It is very tight, 25% controlled basically by insiders and management. It's a very tight cap table, and we want to keep it that way. We're not interested in diluting. And so a part of that is finding a co-packer, because then your investment is only the physical production they produce.
Right. Just basically the inventory.
The inventory. And so it allows us to devote resources to, given Yossi's expertise, to marketing and growing the story. It allows us to continue to invest in R&D and things like that without, being concerned about, this capital constraint and dilution and things, which we don't want to do for our investors.
This answers the question that people are worried about. Oh, is there going to be dilution? Is the company going to need to raise money? And you're not, because you're not laying out capital for manufacturing or anything like that.
Just to be clear, the acquisition came with capital in the Future of Cheese. The company still has that capital. So they are not burning capital. Their investment is the product itself. that they're producing right now to be able to sell to a distributor, to sell like to companies like Organic Garage. And our model is to continue with that kind of basis of a business plan, is to keep the investment limited to the physical product, the cost of goods, and not have to invest in things that are not our core forte. We're not manufacturers. We don't want to be in the manufacturing space. We want to be in the creation of products and the sales piece. So that's a key component.
Okay, so there's basically, okay, so I think if we can basically narrow down the investment story. There's three things that are important to focus on. Number one, for right now, the intermediate goal. Number one is the co-packer to get scale, and that's, I mean, that's not it's not a difficult thing. I mean, like if you find the guy, that's not difficult.
Oh no, we're speaking with multiple co-packers right now,
okay.
So it's
okay. So
yeah,
basically you're gonna because ultimately the goal is we want to be in 2,000 doors, right? You've got to be in 2,000 doors. In order to get there, you need two things. You need the manufacturing scale, which is, I don't think is difficult. Number two is you got to have the 8 to 10 SKUs, the portfolio, the suite of SKUs that are going to be exciting for the market. That part is that's the hard part, right? Have the good quality products that people want. And then number three is obviously is getting the door. So there's three things. Co-packer, I think that's going to be pretty simple. Number two is, can we get 8 to 10 good SKUs? And then three is actually getting, you know, all those stores, the product. So,
just to put in context for the doors, one major retailer could easily be 500 doors alone.
Okay.
So it is not, yeah, it is not difficult. It's getting that ball rolling, but it is not difficult.
So and again, so it's really, so to go from here to a $5 stock is straightforward. You get the co-packer, that part is easy. 8 to 10 SKUs, that part is, you know, execution. You got, you know, we're halfway there. You're halfway there now. You got four products. Three is getting in the doors. And again, if you have just one chain, whether it's a Kroger, is a safe, I think there's Myers is a chain in, I think, the Midwest, which I learned from a different client. There's a whole bunch of these different places out there. They're all looking for a product. So my question is, from the investor standpoint, how do we bridge kind of this gap? Because there's a gap, there's like an uncertainty gap of, can these guys do it, right? So the co-packer thing, I don't think is difficult. The question is, are you going to have 8 to 10 good products, and then can you get them? So those are the things. Those are the unknown. And now, can you address those? How do we de-risk those two things? How do we get now? What are the next products that you're going to have? You have 4. How about the vegan cream cheese? What about other products?
Yeah, so I think the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. In 8 weeks, we've launched 4 products, and I've said it on this program before. The SKUs in the pipeline will get us to our 8 to 10 SKUs. We are not concerned about that. So we are in advanced R&D on a good the next group of SKUs. And you said it yourself, Jack. We're almost halfway there to we are pretty much halfway there to our goal of 8 to 10. So I think in 8 weeks, 6 weeks even, we've shown our ability to not only create quality SKUs, but SKUs that are in demand. So that to me is not a concern with the expertise of Afram and Craig. On the co-packer side, all I can say is that we're already in discussions with numerous co-packers because it's been on the agenda since we've launched the company. So like, we understand the importance of it. And I've said it before, it's a bellwether indicator to the market when that happens. And our goal is in Q1. I don't want to pick a specific time, but I'm very confident that in Q1, we should be able to lock that down to give us the growth rate and be able to tell a co-packer, like you said, if we want to be in 2,000 doors and turning 1 case per SKU per door, it's easy to go and find and run that math with them to make sure that they can meet those obligations. Okay. And then from a retailer standpoint, you know, for us, look, we could probably hit 2,000 doors in Canada, forget about even the US. So you understand the potential of entering the US market and what that could mean. A large retailer here in Canada could give us 500 doors alone with one retailer. So that doesn't include what we could do in the US. So I'm confident, because of the response we've gotten, because of the founders the co-founders, Avram and Craig's, and their prestige and their knowledge and their kind of media personality to get the ball rolling. Once you have that quality co-packer and the SKUs in place, it just becomes a snowball. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of demand creates demand, creates demand, creates demand. And I can tell you from our limited, amount of SKUs that we have now, in terms of where we penetrated, the amount of emails the company gets across Canada and the US looking for the product, the demand is there. So for us, we see a clear path. We've executed on everything we've said so far, and I'm very confident in these next steps to showing the investors that we have the capability to reach those goals, and we're well on that way.
Okay. So, and again, you started with, you had 0 SKUs, 6 weeks ago. Now you have 4, and you never said that you would have 1,000 SKUs. You said from day one, you said 8 to 10. That would be so you're halfway there. I would assume that you're going to have the other 4 or 5 the next, 6, 8 weeks. No, 2 months.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say, given where we're at with some of them. So absolutely, yeah. I think, we're working towards that.
Okay, are you waiting to have, let's say, the 8 to 10 SKUs before you get the co-packer? Are you in a better position when you have 8 to 10, or they're not related? Are those things independent?
They are somewhat related, because you want to make sure the co-packer can produce the items you want to sell. So having that 8 to 10 to be able to sit with a co-packer and say, here's our recipes, here's our anticipated production demands, can you meet those? And so not having them means that you take the risk that the co-packer might not be capable of producing some of those. Okay. So I feel like it's part of our ongoing conversation. Our discussions include what we anticipate to be doing to ensure that the co-packers we're discussing with can produce the items. And so that's a natural, evolution of the conversation that, is happening.
Okay. So so I'm going to speculate and say that, once the 8th SKU is announced, we'll probably have a co-packer announced within a few weeks after that. So I'm going to speculate this will be in February, late February. 8 weeks. Matt, you have 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Well, we're working towards it, Jack.
Well, you're halfway there.
Look, we want the co-packer in place, even more so than the SKU rollouts, which are happening anyway. But the entire team understands the importance of the co-packer. And so it alleviates a lot of focus that is directed to production that could be redirected towards marketing and promotion. And so, it's something that we understand the importance of it, but we also knew that it was not something that we were going to get overnight. We wanted to work through what we're doing now. It was the most prudent thing to be able to help advise a co-packer what our expectations are based off of firsthand experience. You don't want to give your baby without knowing, everything about the baby to somebody else, trusting that they're going to know what's best for it. We want to be able to tell them, hey, look, we know how the breed needs to be produced. This is how we need it done. We know how the butter needs to be produced. This is how it needs to be done. And all we want to leverage is their ability to scale in much larger quantities than we can do currently. So that knowledge is going to aid us tremendously in making sure that the co-packer delivers on the product quality that we have currently.
Okay, so to me it seems like you're really you're executing in a very methodical way. I mean, everything it's amazing. It's like everything you've done, you've delivered. Everything you've said you would do, you've delivered. So I'm assuming that this will continue over the next 6-8 weeks. We should get to those products. So the next step is, and Yossi, give us your input on this. Okay, once the co-packer is in, let's say we're March 1st. March 1st, you got 8 SKUs, 10 SKUs, let's say 10 SKUs. You got the co-packer. How long will it take to get to those 2,000 doors?
Oh, man. I don't speculate on things like that. But I will say that, once you've got 6 to 8 SKUs of anything, and you're giving the retailers a choice, and you're starting to call on retailers in Canada and eventually in the United States, again, as Matt said, if you land 1 or 2 of significant chains, you can get in 500 stores easily. I mean, or you get a real big one like a Kroger, which has thousands of stores. or a Costco or a Walmart or so on, you can really be in a lot of stores pretty quickly. So I think the goal is going to be at that point to try to, fan out and choose a number of key retailers that we think might be ideal for a product like this at this point in time as a starting point, and then to try to work our way into a couple of those big ones and go from there.
Now, yeah.
And I just to add to that, I think it's important. We focus on individual retailers, and a lot of brands take that approach where they target a retailer to get into, but we're underestimating our ability to leverage a quality distributor. And so we've kept distribution very tight for us. But for those that know the public markets, they know the UNFIs of the world, a publicly traded company. They go across Canada. Here in Canada, they are the largest natural food distributor in the United States. And so it's great to target a retailer to show a distributor potential. And so I said that in a previous meeting is that, we might target one or two retailers to get distribution to be able to hand it over to a large distributor like a UNFI, get it listed with them. But UNFI sells to thousands of businesses, tens of thousands in the US. I know thousands in Canada. And so to get it listed with a major distributor that is a national distributor, then the brand takes on a life of its own. So we could focus on a few key retailers to get 2, 3, 4, 500 doors. But that's the best thing, to go to a distributor and say, hey, look, we just got picked up by ABC retailer. You sell to the distributor, to the retailer, sorry. We want you to handle distribution. But to be able to do that, we want to be put in your catalog, which means we want to be opened up to all the retailers, all the businesses, all the food service customers you sell to, to sell to. So then the business can take on a life of its own, and then the door count becomes exponentially larger.
So now, are those? Do you go along both of these kind of tracks simultaneously? In other words, like you have you target retailers yourself at the same time. You're working with distributors who have already thousands of accounts.
We already have distributors approaching us. So
you do? Okay.
Yeah, the distributors is not a problem. We've taken the approach. We are not going to sign on a large distributor until we deal with the cold packer situation, because we don't want to deal with supply constraints. But we already have distributors approaching us. Okay. The distributor question will not be an issue for us.
Yeah, because I guess the idea is like, look, once you have the distributor, you have the they want to make sure the product is there. They don't want to have like something and not they want it to be on the shelf the next day, whatever it is, and to come back a week later. So this company, I'm not familiar with this. When you meant Unify, is it like a Cisco in the US? Is it like Cisco? I know is like a food distributor.
Well, Cisco focuses primarily on food service, but Unify in the US, if you can look it up, they're publicly traded in the US. They are the largest natural food distributor to grocery in the United States, and they're the largest in Canada. So
natural foods for natural food. That's your thing.
Well, Unify stands for United Natural Food.
But they're big in a lot of.
I can't remember what the I stands for, but they're huge. They are huge. Yeah. So our target would be to have probably 2 to 3 distributors that target different segments of the market. Unify is definitely up there in terms of scale and breadth of doors that they hit. And so you just need a quality distributor, with quality retailers to really, then the business just grows exponentially.
Okay, so Matt, because I think there might be some people in the audience that might be thinking, okay, well, 2,000 doors, that sounds like a lot. Is Matt and Yossi, are they going to be knocking door to door with a basket of cheese and butter? I mean, no, it's you're going to have, you're working with a distributor who sells the stuff for you they have already thousands of accounts, and then you might have a few chains you target strategically who already have 500, 600, 1,000 stores. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically.
You're not hiring salespeople. You're not going door to door trying to sell product. This is like there's a place.
And I'm sure Yossi knows this is part of creating a marketing strategy, but I've always envisioned this as, we have 2 people who are the best at what they do, Afram and Craig. And so targeting a few key retailers that help get the ball rolling is what the focus would be for somebody like Afram and Craig. What you leverage a distributor to sell to is the mom and pops, the 1, 3, 5, 10 store chains that you can't reach. You can't speak to everybody. We're not going door to door. And so our goal is to focus on a couple of key bellwether accounts that Avram and Craig and the team would focus on in terms of meeting with and discussing with, getting a quality distributor that distributes to that chain, and leveraging then that distributor to put it in their catalog and become a sales piece as well as Avram and Craig and the team's ability to sell, and in terms of our marketing plan that Yossi is a part of, to help build the awareness and the growth and the natural snowball effect that comes from that. And that's the strategy. And it wouldn't be any different in Canada that is in the US, is to find 1 or 2 key quality larger scale retailers to really scale up, hand that over to a distributor who a distributor is going to love having a large account to sell to and give them confidence. Wow, okay, so these guys are selling to ABC retailer, they're in 400 doors. Great, let's pick it up and let's blow it out to our network of companies we sell to. And it'll be the same approach in the US.
So pretty much, I think we've spent the last 15 minutes going through just these basic points. I think we've de-risked, we've taken off the table. Like it's a fait accompli that this company is going to have 25 million in revenues across 10 SKUs. Now, is it a question, are you going to hit that 25 million by June of this year, or by June of 22, or by June of, I don't think it really matters, but it's basically, that's kind of the question of if is off the table. It's a question of when. In other words, is it going to happen in the next 6 months you're going to get there, or is it going to take 12 months to get to that run rate? Because it seems to me it's like a done deal to get these 2,000 doors. You already have in other words, you're going to have the product's already there essentially. I mean, I'm sure you're not telling us, but I'm sure you already have the other 5 products. They're basically
you said it, I didn't say it, but okay. I don't look, nothing is a done deal. Yossi and I, and the team have always discussed, look, the retail business is ever changing, the consumer package business is ever changing, so nothing is easy. And like your previous interview said, I think you said it great, it's easy for those in the other chair. It's not so easy, that $1 million in sales, that $5 million in sales, that 10 million. It's not easy, but what I will say is
the first million. Yeah, the first 5. But then after that, to get the 25 or 100, that part it
it starts to multiply in the consumer package business. So yes, absolutely. But look, the path is clearly laid out. We've told people the path. We've executed on that path. We're well on our way to accomplishing what is laid out in front of us. And so I think, I said it before, one of your key bellwethers, Jack, and companies that you like to focus on is, are they at an inflection point? And I would say as a company, we have shown proof of concept. We have shown consumer interest. We've shown retailer interest. We have shown restaurant interest. We are growing the SKU base. We are in discussions already with co-packers, and the SKU base and the co-packer, we turned down distribution, because we understand we have a path and a business plan that we want to execute on. We will work with distributors who will scale the business. We will list with larger retailers to reach our door counts, and I'm very confident on that path. Absolutely.
Okay, now one thing we've completely not talked about is the fact that the product is actually selling well. It's constantly getting sold out in the number of stores you're in right now. Like, how many stores are you in right now? You're just right now in a small regional area while you're building it out. So how many doors are you in?
I think we're in the 25 to 50 range. I mean, I always advise people to look on the Future of Cheese website, because they're constantly updating the store list and things are changing so rapidly. But you know what? Look, do we want to be out of stock? No, but I would say that it is better than the people going in there and the product's not moving. So I would say for SKUs like the brie, like I said, I'm a retailer. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen a lot of products. I'm usually very good about forecasting a product. It has exceeded my expectation for the retail price point and the sort of specialty product it is. It has blown me away. And so we're scaling up in terms of what we're carrying in our stores. I can only imagine for other retailers as well. It's been a very, very pleasant surprise. So I think, we're very encouraged by, what we've seen so far on the sell through. So yeah.
Can you talk about actual numbers? Like, I mean, because you're basically you're not giving these things for free. You're selling product, right? Nobody's getting these. Like,
No,
what
no.
kind of numbers?
We've promoted it. I'm not in a position to get through, or convey actual numbers in terms of sell through. But look, the Brie is a $13 to $14 retail selling point. This isn't a $2 stick of cheese. So when we set the price point, we anticipated this to be a somewhat slow mover, in terms of the market it was targeting, but to help build the brand in terms of the excellent quality that it would help build awareness of the brand, because people who bought it would be blogging about it, Instagramming about it, which is what's happened. What I didn't anticipate is the turn rate would be much faster, much faster than I anticipated. And I would say that even probably the team anticipated. And you know what? It's a good problem to have. These are problems you want to be discussing as a brand while you're scaling up. And I'm sure Yossi went through it. When they targeted a $5 to $10 million kids yogurt brand and it went to 30, I'm pretty sure there was all-night production runs going on to keep up with demand, and retailers saying, "Hey, I'm out of stock on shelf. When can I get more?" And you're talking about $1 billion, company that is used to producing in large equivalents. But when they're doing 3 times what they thought in the first year, there's going to be production problems. There's going to be sourcing of ingredient problems. And I'm not saying we're having those issues, but I'm saying these are good problems to have.
Right. That's exactly what happened with those. They just couldn't make it fast enough. They wanted it, and they had to step back a little bit and find ways to increase production by going to a third shift, by trying to maybe produce it at a second plant. All that was happening. So it's good if you have some of it, right? You want to be able to balance the two. So you start off a little bit slower, so you can then use those numbers as a way to predict what's going to happen next, right? And it all happens next before you have a chance to react to it.
And that is exactly, the why we took the route we went to before going the co-packer route, is to learn some of those things, to be able to go to a packer and co-packer and say, "Hey, look, we know what our anticipated volumes are. You need to be able to meet these volumes for us to keep up with the demand that we're seeing." And so, it's no different than in that example. There's only so much you can plan for in retail. All I can say is that the team is pivoting very quickly. I would say as a retailer, we're pivoting, quickly, to keep up with consumers' interest, and it's exciting. Look, I'm excited by it. I'm blown away, and it gives me a lot of confidence in the direction the company is going. And I hope, investors and people seeing this can hear it in my voice. It is a good problem to have. It teaches us, it allows us to pivot and adjust. And I can speak no better than Yossi's example. You anticipate 10 million in a kid's yogurt, you end up doing 30 million. That's exactly what Yossi said. There's third shifts, there's fourth shifts. There is, we got to buy more ingredients, because you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6 times what you anticipated. You can only anticipate so much. Once you see the real world results, you pivot. And we have the team in place to be able to pivot and adjust. So I'm very pleased with how we've adjusted, and it's a great problem to have. I don't know what else to say. I'd rather be in this position than scratching my head to say, well, it's not selling. What's going on? What can we do? That is not a problem we're having.
Let's see if we can I want to get to a couple of questions before we wrap up. So Mitch is asking, are you positioning as a high price exclusive product, premium product? Hey, just for context, what are your SKUs selling for? Like, if you want to give us the numbers.
The butter has a $9.99 MSRP. It is well in line with the other plant-based butters in the market, whether it be the Miyokos or Earth Zone or other brands that we see here in Canada. So we're not concerned with that. We positioned it as it is not a discount product. It is a premium product, but the retail price point is at market. The Brie, it's hard. There's no comparable, but if we look at premium plant-based cheeses, it is well within the range. It's not a cheap item like I said, it's not a $2 stick of butter, but a $2 stick of cheese. But we didn't position it as a $2 stick of cheese. It has a $13.99 manufacturer suggested retail selling price point, and some retailers are selling it for more than that. But that is the goal that we set for what is in the market. I know that is what we're selling it at our stores, and because it is It is a great product. There's no reason to have to give it away. There's lots of room for, going back to Yossi's expertise, to put it on promotion where a retailer wants to. There's lots of margin dollars there from a retailer standpoint to be aggressive if they want to put it on sale, which is what you always want to do as a brand, is give that healthy room on the margin side, because it's a 35 to 40 point margin, which is where you want to see a specialty product to be at, and to be able to discount it, $1 off, $2 off, and still be making a healthy margin on it. So it's been well positioned in the market. And I would say any of our other products we're looking at, it is always to be where the market is. We are not going 30% above market and hoping that we can just sell product in Craig's reputation. No, we want to be in line with the others. And what we want to set it apart on is the quality of the products is second to none. So people are getting it at market price, but the quality they're getting is superior in our eyes to what's out there, and that's a great position to be in.
Okay, yeah. So the pricing is in line with where it is. Okay. So in terms of what can let's kind of wrap up on this, which is for 2022. For the first, let's call it 90 days, because we're not going to make projections about a year from now. But for 90 days, can we expect to see the next 5 SKUs out?
I would say that we're well on that way. So we will continue to have product releases, and reach our goal, 10 SKUs. Okay. We're halfway there. The next stuff we have in the pipeline, I will meet that goal. So I think that is something that we're working towards in Q1. And like I said, the same thing with the co-packer in Q1 is a goal of ours to solidify and be able to announce, which I think will be a bellwether sign to the market. Hey, we're off to the races. And so that's what we're excited about.
Okay. I just want to maybe spend like 2 minutes on the store, the groceries, the organic garage business a little bit. We do have a lot of it because, you're doing 30 million in revenues in that. So that's it's a substantial business. So one of the things I think investors are interested in is, okay, you have 4 stores, you're doing 30 million. It's just right now in Toronto, a small area of Toronto. Can this be scaled, internationally? You talk about North America, and then after that maybe the world. But what about new locations? I know you put out an announcement about Savills, I think, was getting
they're representing us. Yeah.
What's the update on that?
So the goal, that we set out when we announced that was to get a group of sites together that we could take, a big step as a retailer. And I think Savills is working very hard with that. There's a lot of sites we were inundated with, and I think for us, we want to take a big step. We want that 4 to 6 site. I want to say, sometimes these back and forth, they can be sometimes painful, with back and forth with landlords and things like that. But Savills is working very hard, and our goal within, next year is to put together a suite of sites that, take one big step forward for us and get us into that 8 to 10 store range, which is where we want to be, because to go from 8 to 10, to 15 to 20 to 20 to 30, is not difficult, but we want to take that big step forward, fill up that pipeline. And our hope is, looking towards next year, to be able to have some good announcements when it comes to not just announcing like one site and then 6 months later another site and then another 6 months maybe another site. It's to maybe take a couple big steps with a 4 to 6 store package of stores that really move the needle when it comes to the brand. And then Jack, just exciting from I know, because I know you always talk about US expansion, but it is exciting. We have had some people reach out to us that have seen what we're doing and what we're about. And, we had somebody reach out to us from the US asking us about, hey, would you be interested, maybe in looking at, markets like the New York market and things like that. And going back to what we've always said is, hey, look, we're always interested in looking at new markets. For us, it would be to find a quality operator that knows the market well and work with them on, licensing and helping giving expertise on the brand and what we're about. And, like I said, just this last week, I had a very interesting conversation about, the New York market and what's in that market and what a kind of spaces look like and things like that. So, I just always want to reemphasize to our investors and people looking at our story, there's always conversations going on, and there's a lot of interest, definitely on the plant-based side and what we're up to. But I would say, for those that like our retail business, a lot of people, are very excited about what we're doing in the retail space, and look at us as potential, for different markets and things like that. So, lots of stuff happening. It gives me great kind of expectations for what we're going to be able to accomplish over the next 10 to 12 months in terms of moving the needle for the company on both sides of the business.
Okay, so Matt, when you started speaking, the internet kind of went out on your end a little bit, but you said something which is very important. We got to repeat, which we never heard before. You never said this before, but essentially you said, can you rewind, repeat what you said? You're talking to landlords, and basically you're looking to do you're going to roll out 4 to 6 right away. You're looking to do
we're looking to put together a group of sites that can move the needle for us. And so, look, we always want to be cautious of dilution and capital requirements. So it's always a balancing act, but we do feel there's an opportunity in the market to take some big steps forward. And so for us, what we've challenged, our real estate team with, Savills, is to put together a group of 4 to 6 stores that could really move the needle for us, within a relatively short period of time, because we want to capitalize on the interest of what's going on in the grocery space. And look, as sad as it is to say, with this new variant and stuff, and there's new lockdowns, and people are getting concerned again, and it just re-trumps the interest in where am I going for my groceries? How do I get them delivered to home if I don't want to go out? I'm concerned about my health. And then you get into who's selling organic and natural products, like it just renews the interest, again. So
people, wherever they are,
people need to eat. So,
they don't need they don't need the metaverse, but they do need to eat.
Well, you said that. I didn't say that. But know. Yes. I don't want to demean anybody's,
this is business, air. They need air. They need to eat.
They need, they need food, water, and shelter. That's what it comes down to when these things happen.
So the big takeaway from today, we got into this like almost an hour into the interview, is so there's going to be an announcement at some point that, okay, the company is rolling out.
It is what we're working towards. It is.
So it's not going to challenge. We're not going to see an announcement in March. Okay, we just did one deal. No, it's going to be like 4 stores we're launching, and we're going into construction, whatever. I don't know.
Our goal is to fill a pipeline and to take a major step forward, and that is the mandate.
Forward, as Mao Zedong said, the giant leap forward. This is the 5.
We want to hit. You know what? I kind of joke about it. We want to hit 8 to 10 SKUs in the future cheese, but we want to hit 8 to 10 stores in the organic garage universe as well. And that to us is a key mark for us as we look to scale up and achieve greater market penetration. And so, look, we can take a slow approach if we choose. And you know what? There's nothing to say that might happen. But I would say the mandate is, and what we're working towards on the inside is to take a significant step forward. And I think my belief is and hope is, and what we're working hard towards is that will happen.
Okay, so the giant leap forward is this year. This is the giant leap forward, and it's 2 parts. Part 1, 8 to 10 SKUs, going into 2,000 doors, 25 million in revenues, and 8 to 10 organic garage stores. Basically, 4 new stores, maybe 6 new stores. Let's say just 6 stores, which is not difficult. I mean, Yossi, you've seen guys open up 1,000 stores, right? I mean, it's not. Wow. This is not
at once.
Well, not at once, but over a little bit of. But
we've announced 4 to 6 stores that open over a set period of time that at least double the size of the company. That's what we're working towards.
So basically, there's a clear path right now for Organic Garage to double the retail business. So that'll be, let's call it 60 million in revenues. 60 million in revenues. And if you can get these stores, if you can get halfway there this year, I think the market will pay 4x for that. So that's 250 million. It's $5 a share. That's what the stock would be worth. Plus, on top of that, you'll layer on the plant-based business, which is another $5 based on that valuation of 10x revenues of 20, and that's a $10 stock price.
Yeah, and I know investors, they're always interested. Hey,
not crazy. I mean, look,
what's going on with announcements for new stores? But I think just to remind everybody,
because
we're not announcing things doesn't mean there's not things happening behind the scenes. We announce things once they're done. So we're working towards that. And so our goal was always to put together a group of stores. And so, you know what, you might not see an announcement, you know, one this month, one next month, but I think when it does come, our goal is to be able to announce a suite of stores over a certain period of time to open them, to take a major step forward for the bricks and mortar side of our business.
Okay, so essentially right now we just laid out the case. Here's why the stock can be $10 very easily. There's two parts to it. Part one is, you know, doubling the store count. That's, you know, adding, you know, four to six new stores, which is, and we talked about before. I mean, I don't want to rehash, but you have a system to do it. It's pretty easy. It's not like you're going to be out there by yourself, you know, painting the walls and whatever. There's a system in place to do that. You have the distribution. You wouldn't
want me painting the walls. I'm not a good painter.
I mean, you have a system in place to scale up, which is the thing that I love so much about the retail businesses. Once you have that model dialed in, you can scale up ad infinitum, and investors can extrapolate the revenues, and that's why that, you know, the stock can get that massive valuation. And by the way, it's not even a massive valuation. $10 is really like a starter. So you got the 10 stores exiting 2022 with 10 stores, and on track to get to 2,000 doors with 10 SKUs of the cheese. These are actually small goals. These are not crazy, like, you know, moonshot, like we're going to Mars, we're going to.
Well, Jack, it takes a lot of work, but I think our goal is to show that path.
Right.
What we're able to deliver, you know, it's hard. There's lots of variables, but I'm confident that we will be able to show a path towards some of the goals you've outlined during this next 10 to 12 months.
But it's a difference. But where you are now is like the difference between, you know, the Wright brothers with a plane going for 2 minutes and the first the Mercury rocket. I don't know if anybody knows what was the Mercury the first one to go into orbit. But anyway, nobody believed it. But once you can go into orbit, then, you know, you could go to Mars, to the moon first, and then to Mars. So, but first you got to have the Mercury rocket to go into orbit, and you already have that. The rocket is already there. Now it's a question of which planet do you want to hit first. You know,
that's a good analogy. I like that analogy. Yeah.
The rocket is there. It's a question of which planet are we going to first.
Yes. I'd say that's a good analogy.
I'm gonna end on that. This is
that's a classic. That's a great one.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. We're gonna catch up to you in the first weeks of January.
Appreciate it. Wishing everybody a happy holidays and a very healthy New Year.
Thank you, Jack. Great to see you again. Bye.
Bye.